good morning. Please welcome to the stage Kelly Valade, CEO, Denny's. Let's welcome her.
Good morning. Good morning, and welcome to this incredible special event we hope will spark an informative and inspirational dialogue about mental health, both in the workplace and at home. I'm Kelly Valade. I'm the CEO at Denny's, and on behalf of our board and all of our team members around the globe, we are grateful that you've joined us today for this important and timely discussion. I'm honored to serve as a passionate advocate for issues related to mental health. As you may know, the restaurant industry, it's an amazing industry, but it's also a taxing one. In fact, the restaurant industry consistently ranks at the top of the list for insurance companies for claims related to mental health. And the last 3 years have certainly not made it any easier. It's clear the pandemic has had an impact on our mental health and our overall well-being. So today is the first of a series of mental health and wellness summits that Denny's is sponsoring and co-hosting with several key partners. First, and importantly, our host here today, the University of South Carolina Upstate. Yes, fantastic. Also, the Institute of Global Health Equity at Meharry Medical College. And, yes, the Satcher Health Leadership Institute at the Morehouse School of Medicine. So I want to thank all of our partners for joining us on this journey. It would not be possible without them. So the purpose for today, it's very straightforward. We want to advance the narrative around mental health issues and their impact within the workplace and educational environments. Secondly, we want to support the workforce, our schools, and the broader community as they navigate the challenges associated with mental health and wellness, uncovering real-world strategies that we can all lean on. Denny's is supporting these summits because we recognize the need to raise awareness around mental health needs and resources in the workplace. In fact, we're also swiftly working to improve our mental health and well-being offerings for our very own employees at Denny's. So in preparing for this event, we did a little bit of research on our own. We've uncovered some fascinating, frankly, a little bit troubling statistics and data points about the state of mental health in this country. In a recent American Psychological Association survey, 59% of employees said they have experienced negative impacts of work-related stress in the past month. 87% of those survey respondents said actions from their employer would help their mental health. They also said that 2 out of 3 employees are uncomfortable providing feedback to their managers about their mental health. And only 47% of employees are aware of what the companies offer in terms of mental health resources and programs. And finally, what's even more concerning is only 38% would even be comfortable using those resources. Finally, 18 to 24-year-olds have been cited as the most lonely generation today. And that's why it's fitting that we're here at USC Upstate. Those are our employees. Those are college students that we need to thrive in both places. So mental health in our workplaces, our schools, and our homes, it's clearly a real issue, an issue that brings with it a lot of stigmas. Part of today's goal is to start eradicating those stigmas associated with mental health. In their book, Understanding Mental Health Issues, A Comprehensive Guide to Mental Illness for Family and Friends, Doctors Marquita Wills and Carlin Barnes urge us to understand that mental health is as serious as heart disease, as diabetes, and hypertension. They encourage us to show compassion to each other and offer a helping hand to assist any coworker, friend, or family member in need. I hope this event today plays a role in creating an environment of compassion and even more support. So speaking of today's event, our agenda is packed with valuable information and incredibly dynamic speakers. In a few minutes, you'll hear from Dr. Daniel Dawes, who will offer a compelling perspective on health equity, or the lack of it in this country. You'll see a video from our very own John Dillon, Denny's president, about our social and community outreach related to this. And finally, our panels today will discuss 2 interesting and interrelated topics: mindful eating and wellness at work. And of course, we're going to leave plenty of time for questions and comments from all of you. Our expectation is that today will be a dynamic and interactive session with these experts talking with you. We hope this summit is a transformational event for employees, students, and our community locally and nationally. So hopefully we're ready to dive in. Let me start by introducing Dr. Benny L. Harris, Chancellor of the University of South Carolina Upstate, and our host for today's event. A native of Deason, located in the Mississippi Delta, Dr. Harris's parents stressed the importance of education as the key to personal and professional success. Dr. Harris has a rich career that has positioned him as a transformative leader at institutions like Washington State University, the University of Alabama at Birmingham, and DePaul University. What makes today a bit of a homecoming for Dr. Harris is that prior to joining USC Upstate, he served as Senior Vice President for the Institutional Advancement at the Morehouse School of Medicine. Dr. Harris co-chaired the institution's 5-year strategic plan and served as a vital member in developing the school's Leadership Academy, a program designed to promote leadership among faculty and staff. During his tenure here at USC Upstate, Dr. Harris has participated in the Spartanburg Academic Movement, 10 at the Top, One Spartanburg, the Charles Lee Center Administrative Board, the United Way of the Piedmont, and many other organizations. Please join me in a special welcome for Dr. Benny L. Harris.
Kelly, thank you very much for your leadership and your commitment to the health and well-being of your team members and the entire Denny's community. I'm Dr. Benny Harris, the Chancellor of the University of South Carolina Upstate, and I'm proud to represent our university and partner with the Denny's Corporation to advance the meaningful conversation, mental health, and wellness. At USC Upstate, our vision is education for all that inspires a thriving and just society. Our more than 5,000 students, 1,000 employees, 32,000 alumni-strong network represent the best and the brightest, guided by a desire to pursue and support higher learning that leads to life-changing careers and improves our region and our state. So again, I welcome you. Before introducing our speaker, allow me to acknowledge the genesis of this particular event. There are very few coincidences that I believe. Within a year of coming to USC Upstate as Chancellor, a good friend and a prayer partner of mine who began working at the Denny's Corporation and supply chain diversity. His name is Randy Brown. Immediately, Randy and I connected in Spartanburg, and he said, I have to have you meet Kelly Drummond. And several of the people had already told me that Kelly is someone that I needed to meet, but coming in as a new chancellor, there was so much on my agenda. So Randy organized this meeting. We began a discussion. Randy, Kelly, and I connected over dinner to share my vision for USC Upstate and advancing opportunities for my students. Kelly began to share with me that Denny's has a new CEO, and this CEO has a major, major commitment to health, mental health, and wellness, and she believed that is her agenda. And immediately we thought that would be a great way to collaborate. Already USC Upstate and Denny's had a great relationship. We had interns working at Denny's, already contributing, the workforce, etc. Then we decided to create this event and this moment. Once April and her team gathered in Poole and several other stakeholders, they made this impactful series of events. Randy, April, Kelly, and the Denny's community, thank you, thank you, thank you. Now I have the esteemed pleasure of introducing our featured speaker. Daniel E. Dawes is a widely respected healthcare and public health leader, health policy expert, educator, and researcher who serves as Senior Vice President for Global Health and the Institute of Global Health Equity, Executive Director at Meharry Medical College. Before this, he served as the Executive Director of the Satcher Health Leadership Institute and a Professor of Health Policy, Law, and Management at the Morehouse School of Medicine. Daniel is the author of 2 groundbreaking health policy books, 150 Years of Obamacare, and the second, The Political Determinants of Health, both published by the Johns Hopkins University Press. Among his many achievements, he was an instrumental figure in developing and negotiating the Mental Health Parity Act, the Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act, the Americans with Disability Amendments Act, and the Affordable Care Act's Health Equity Focus provision. Among other landmark federal policy, as well as the principal investigators for the nation's first health equity tracker, co-founded the Health Equity Leadership and Exchange Network, and he is a principal investigator of the HHS National COVID-19 Resiliency Network. Professor Dawes is an elected member of the National Academy of Medicine and an elected fellow of the New York Academy of Medicine. He serves as an advisor to the White House COVID-19 Health Equity Task Force and an appointed member of CDC's Advisory Committee to the Director, where he co-chairs the CDC Health Equity Work and NIH National Advisory Council on Nursing Research. I thought it was very important that I introduce all of these accolades because it says to me how critical and how important the work that Daniel does. Beyond his academic and professional accolades, Daniel is an amazing man. He is a friend, and for 7 years we worked together as colleagues. He is a man of faith and of purpose. He and his wife, Nadika, have 2 beautiful, active boys, and they are committed to advancing health equity. Please help me to welcome Professor Daniel Dawes.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It is so great to be here with you all today, and let me just say what a great honor. It is really the greatest honor for me when I have a dear colleague, a friend, and a mentor introducing me. And so, Benny, Dr. Harris, Chancellor Harris, I want to thank you so much. And I'll tell you a little story. Last night, when I got in pretty late, and he texted me and he says, "Are you here yet?" And I said, "Yes. I'm at the airport finishing up my presentation." He says, "Oh my gosh, you're at the airport. All right, I'm going to come and get you." And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, I don't know what I was thinking." But finally, I recognized, wait, I told him the airport, not the hotel. And he gave me a little grace. So that's how you know he's a true friend, and I thank Benny for that. You know, as I mentioned, I am truly honored to be here speaking with you all today about a critical issue, one that is near and dear to my heart, and one that is impacting our fight to advance health equity, and of course that's mental health. You know, I think it's so fitting. How fitting is it today as we think about this year, 2023? This month is National Minority Health Month. This year we commemorated the 20th anniversary of the Institute of Medicine's Unequal Treatment Report. And this is also the year where we are celebrating President Kennedy's last bill that he ever signed into law, the Community Mental Health Act, 60 years ago. Imagine that, right? When we think about the hierarchy of chronic disease value in America, for too long, mental illness has been relegated to the lower end of that hierarchy. And when you couple this with the hierarchy of human value in this country, you can begin to see and understand the striking inequities in mental health and substance use disorders. For those of you who've been in the trenches advocating for mental health reforms, it's been a frustrating endeavor trying to overcome the stigma, the discrimination, and the unnecessary and unfair barriers to advance mental health. And of course, develop the kind of strong partnerships and leadership that is needed to move the needle of mental health equity to a meaningful degree in the right direction in our country. So, of course, I want to thank and commend Denny's, and I want to thank you, Kelly, in particular, for your incredible, your courageous leadership. I don't know of another corporation that is leading from the front like Denny's, instead of leading on the side, as so many do when it comes to mental health. And of course, I want to recognize your team members, April and Randy, who've been instrumental in convening us and getting this issue the attention it deserves. You know, as I was preparing this keynote address, I struggled with whether to share a personal story. But I have decided to, because I'm sure many of you in this audience or online have endured this common struggle, either personally or with a family member or loved one. So in November of last year, after an exhausting 10-hour flight, I turned on my phone, and immediately afterwards I saw several text messages and voicemail messages popping up. They were from a cousin of mine, a really dear cousin, declaring that she had almost died, that she was being harmed by a clinician, and that she was in the hospital and being mistreated. and that she needed to urgently talk to me. Well, it was late. I tried calling her back. She didn't answer. I kept getting her voicemail, kept texting her, the same thing, nothing. So I called her sister and, in a panic, was really praying that she was okay, offering to her sister whatever help I could at that time. Her sister took a deep breath and she said, "Danny," that's what they call me in the family, "she is okay, but there's something I need to tell you." I said, "Well, thank God she's fine, but what's going on?" She paused for a few more seconds, and then she blurted out that my cousin had been experiencing severe depression and anxiety for several years, and that she was bipolar. I was stunned. I'd never known that. In fact, her mom swore them all to secrecy. She didn't want anyone in the extended family to know this. She was deeply embarrassed, and she believed the shame would be far worse than the truth. My cousin recounted how her sister had struggled to attain mental health services because of the belief that it was best to keep this to themselves, and that the family, their immediate family, could help her. But as time went by, things started deteriorating. Not only was my cousin stressed out, but now so was her mother, her sisters, her children, in fact. Her situation was having a serious domino effect on the family. I tell that story to highlight the fact that it was not until she was able to speak to the mental health concerns that she was experiencing, and she and her family finally stepped out of the shadow of stigma, that she was able to actually move forward with getting the proper care that she needed, which is precisely the position that we find our country and society in, unable to move forward with addressing mental health inequities because of stigma, right? Stigma silences us from speaking about the issues and finding solutions. But fortunately, we're all here to do just that, to speak up and to chart a path forward. Well, 2 months after my cousin's call and text messages, in January of this year, I received another call from my aunt who was desperate for help with another cousin who was taken to the hospital for a mental health condition. This cousin had been struggling financially and had tried everything that he could to take care of his family. He became lonely. He fell into depression and lost hope. He had tried to commit suicide and was being held in a hospital, but the hospital in his state would only keep him for 48 hours because he was uninsured, and the state where he lives would only cover 2 days of mental health care and treatment. My aunt, she didn't know what else to do to secure additional health services. She couldn't locate a mental health professional in her town, figure out how to get her son the services and supports he needed. And when she found someone, the cost of those services was cost prohibitive. Here's the thing about our system. It is so inequitable that even when care options exist, you may not be able to figure out how to access them. When my aunt called me, I personally struggled with how to navigate the system with her. And I have access to all sorts of experts and resources with my career at a medical school and because of my legal and health policy background, especially in mental health. And it was almost still not enough. Imagine that, right? But by us shining a light, a spotlight on the inequities in the system, maybe, just maybe, we can advocate for making it not only more equitable, but also more accessible. In the words of one of the greatest health equity leaders of our time, the 16th U.S. Surgeon General, Dr. David Satcher, a dear friend and mentor, he was the first federal official to address the underrated and highly stigmatized issue of mental health at the federal government. He has stated time and time again that there is no health without mental health. Now, despite tremendous progress in healthcare and public health in recent years, the current situation we are observing for mental health and for health equity is absolutely dire. Many people, regardless of their background, face significant barriers to accessing quality health care and achieving their full health potential. from gun violence and climate change to mental health challenges and beyond. There are many factors that contribute to this challenging situation. Throughout this presentation, we're going to examine the current state of health equity and explore potential solutions to address this pressing issue. It is my hope that by the end of this presentation, we are all going to be collectively reinvigorated, inspired to work towards eliminating the inequities in mental health experiences across the country. So, I'd like to begin with a literal existential threat. I'm going to begin with the end in mind by discussing with you life expectancy to highlight how truly dire the situation is. For many years, life expectancy had been steadily increasing in the United States, right? Due to improvements in healthcare, public health, and technology. However, recent data has shown a concerning decline in life expectancy, particularly in certain population groups. In the United States, life expectancy dropped by 1.8 years in 2020, of course, owing to the COVID pandemic, and another almost 1 year drop the following year. This was the largest 2-year decline since 1923. Think about that. And it was disproportionately impacting communities of color and those of lower socioeconomic status. And make no mistake about this, these numbers are absolutely alarming. They're frightening. 6.6 years lost for American Indian and Alaska Native populations, 4.2 years lost for Hispanic Americans, 4 years lost for Black Americans, 2.4 years for white Americans, and 2.1 years for Asian Americans. Again, this hasn't happened in close to 100 years. And with all the advances and the progress that we've made, as a nation in the areas of science and technology and medicine, why is this happening? Why? Well, through research, we know that your health is no longer determined by just your genes or your choices that you make, but also by factors around you, such as what zip code you live in, how clean the water you drink is. Just came back from Mississippi, where in Jackson, we're talking about the water crisis there, right? Or how clean the air you breathe may be, or even how much money you earn in a year, just to name a few. These extremes I just mentioned are spilling over to other aspects of our lives. In the context of mental health, there are absolutely many factors mutually reinforcing and compounding the trauma we experience that inhibit us from living longer, healthier lives. When we consider the effects of climate change, violence in all its forms, racism, systemic racism, and more, it's central to connect the dots from brain health to systemic health. Consider the following headlines, and as we read them, I'd ask you to frame these stories in the context of mental health. Experts warn there's a growing need for mental health providers and services as the war in Ukraine continues, impacting millions here in our country. In Dadeville, Alabama, just this week, a shooting at a birthday party killed 4 and injured 28 people. Or think about, for those of us who are coming from Nashville, Tennessee, the recent school shooting in the Nashville community is they're sorely feeling that still right now. Last year alone, there were 648 mass shootings in the United States. We wonder what impact it's having on our mental health. We observed a widespread, deadly, and historic tornado outbreak affecting large portions of the Midwestern parts of our country, southern and eastern United States, the result of an extratropical cyclone that also produced blizzard conditions in the upper Midwest. Just last week, historic flooding in the South Florida area displaced thousands and caused damage to property and infrastructure, cutting people off from critical health services that they needed, and which now they've been delaying care as a result. Sadly, these are just the headlines from the last few weeks. And the point is, although the examples I provided span issues from climate change, violence, policy, and more, they are all connected by the impacts to our mental health. However, these impacts are not felt equally because when you think about it, Low-income communities, communities of color, and other marginalized groups are often disproportionately impacted by a range of factors, including a lack of access to resources such as healthcare and healthy food, inadequate housing, limited economic resources, disinvestments in certain communities, and a lack of emergency response based on a wide range of discrimination. But the one question that I want us to all ask ourselves today, how did we get here? How did we get to this dire point in America? While these facts are heartbreaking and difficult to reckon with, we must recognize how U.S. history has impacted a lack of progress in our overall health and well-being. So how did we get here to these striking inequities in mental health and healthcare? How does inequality get under our skin, leading to the earlier onset of chronic diseases, especially mental illness, in population groups? Well, we know the impact of slavery has been associated with contemporary mortality, poverty, heart disease, intergenerational trauma, infant and maternal mortality, and the list goes on. As we think about the structural conditions that generate higher mental illness or the race norming that we see in cognitive assessment tools, we need to think about how they came to be in the first place. As we seek to answer that fundamental question, how did we get here? I'm often reminded of one of the earliest pioneers of health equity and a champion of mental health reform, Dorothea Dix. Dorothea Dix was a school teacher from Massachusetts, having lived in the early 1800s, and Dorothea tirelessly advocated for both under-resourced populations and those living with mental illness, dedicating her life to improving their treatment and living conditions. One of her most significant contributions was her advocacy for mental health reform across the nation. But make this certain, this was not an easy task to achieve. Dorothea faced fierce opposition from many politicians, including President Franklin Pierce at the time, who vetoed a bill that she had spent 40 years of her life advocating for. That bill finally made it through the House, the Senate, it passed, and yet we had a president who, although he had succumbed to substance use disorder, although he had witnessed his wife's mental health decline owing to clinical depression and anxiety, he vetoed the bill. Since those efforts, we had to go through 3 wars: Civil War, World War I, World War II, before the government and our business leaders were willing to recognize that mental illness is a chronic disease that is worthy of our investments. Yet 170 years later, many of the foundational policies and programs that we have in place today were laid by Dorothea's investment and her advocacy efforts. It's an enduring reminder that advocacy works and it has a lasting impact. While history has taught us that the moral argument may not always be enough to persuade the hearts and minds of those in positions of power to champion change, we can and should use other points of view to discuss the beneficial impacts of advancing mental health. So this leads me to a groundbreaking report published last year titled "The Economic Burden of Mental Health Inequities in the United States." Over 20 years ago, the Surgeon General of the United States, Dr. David Satcher, issued a seminal report on mental health, which demonstrated that mental health is fundamental to our systemic health, and mental health conditions are equally worthy of our investments. Building upon this legacy and recognizing while previous studies had attempted to highlight how health disparities affect economic, health, and lifespan outcomes for different population groups, none have specifically analyzed the economic burden of mental and behavioral health inequities. So with this report, I set out to close an important gap in behavioral health and health equity research relative to mental health inequities. And here's what we found. Our findings were striking with the limited data sets that we have on mental health, 5 of them actually, between 2016 and 2020. That's the latest data we could get our hands on. The total number of premature mental and behavioral health-related deaths among indigenous populations and racial and ethnic minoritized groups was almost 117,000 people. Think about that. And during the same period, the total excess cost burden from these inequities was nearly $300 billion. $300 billion, and that's a pretty conservative number. We, in fact, think it absolutely is much higher, but we have limited data on mental health and behavioral health as a whole. In fact, in our report, we list a number of policy recommendations, right? Ranging from how policy can be an effective vehicle of change, targeting the development of resources like the National 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, to the Medicaid expansion programs, to eliminating cost barriers to receiving care, and creating a pipeline for education and recruitment. But the transition from academic report to implementation of change hinges on crucial partnerships and leadership. Because if it's one thing I have learned, it is that partnerships and leadership are absolutely key to driving sustainable policy changes in the development of a national strategy for mental health. I firmly believe that the partnerships between Denny's, the University of South Carolina Upstate, and Meharry Medical College can really propel the prioritization of these issues forward in meaningful and sustainable ways. This partnership proves that a shared commitment to speak to, address, and one day eliminate the stigma and mental health inequities experienced across the country is the most efficient path towards a more equitable tomorrow for everyone. It is my hope today that my remarks are received as they are interpreted and as intended, as a multi-pronged call to action to reshape, reform, and modernize our approach to educating on and addressing the root causes and instigators of our mental health challenges. That we are engaging in meaningful dialogue about mental health inequities and how they affect and even determine how and how often chronic and acute conditions disparately impact a diversity of individuals and communities in our nation gives me a sense of hope about how far we can go together. You know, someone once said that when ordinary people come together, extraordinary things can happen. I find comfort, though, knowing that I am speaking before a group of very extraordinary people this morning, which leads me to say this: when extraordinary people come together, what can happen? Magic, right, in health equity can happen. But in order to do that, in order to start making magic together and move the dial of mental health equity to a degree that we never even dreamed possible before in our country, we first now need leaders more so than ever before that care enough, know enough, have the courage to do enough, and who will persevere until we have achieved mental health equity in America. I want to thank you all so very much for the privilege of your time, and more importantly, I want to thank you all for the courageous and humbling leadership that you have exercised in helping us to elevate this important issue. Thanks again.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take just a 2-minute break to stretch your legs, and then we'll continue to our first panel discussion. Now, please don't leave the room. Let's just kind of stand up, stretch, and Kenny, give me a little music just to help them out a little bit so they can just kind of loosen up this morning and kind of get themselves prepared. So go ahead and just follow the instructions of the song to just kind of stretch out for a minute, and we'll be right back.
Platinum band, and this time we're gonna get funky. funky. Everybody clap your hands. Clap, 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 clap your hands. Clap, 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 clap your hands. All right, now, we're going to do the basic step. To the left. Take it back now, y'all. One hop this time. Right foot, let's stomp. Left foot, let's stomp. Cha-cha, real smooth. Turn it out. To the left. Take it back now, y'all. One hop this time. Right foot, let's stomp. Left foot, let's stomp. Cha-cha now, y'all. Now it's time to get funky. To the right now. To the left. Take it back now, y'all. One hop this time. One hop this time. Right foot, 2 stumps. Left foot, 2 stumps. Slide to the left. Slide to the right. Crisscross. Crisscross. Cha-cha, real smooth. Let's go to work. To the left. Take it back now, y'all. 2 hops this time. 2 hops this time. Right foot, 2 stumps. Left foot, 2 stumps. Hands on your knees, hands on your knees. Get funky with it. Oh, yeah. Come on. Cha-cha now, y'all. Turn it out. To the left. Take it back now, y'all. 5 hops this time. Right foot, let's stomp. Left foot, let's stomp. Right foot again. Left foot again. Right foot, let's stomp. Left foot, let's stomp. Freeze! Everybody clap your hands. Come on, y'all. Check it out, y'all. How low can you go? Can you go down low? All the way to the floor? How low can you go? Can you bring it to the top? Like you never stop? Can you bring it to the top? 1 hop. Right foot now. Left foot now, y'all. Cha-cha, real smooth. Turn it out. To the left. Take it back now, y'all. 1 hop this time. 1 hop this time. Reverse. Reverse. Slide to the left. Slide to the right. Reverse, reverse. Reverse, reverse. Cha-cha now, y'all. Cha-cha again. Cha-cha now, y'all. Cha-cha again. Turn it out. To the left. Take it back now, y'all. 2 hops, 2 hops. 2 hops, 2 hops. Right foot, let's stomp. Left foot, let's stomp. Charlie Brown. Hop it out now. Slide to the right. Slide to the left. Take it back now, y'all. Cha-cha now, y'all. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Do that stuff. Do it. Do it. Oh, yeah, yeah. I'm out of here, y'all. Peace. Peace.
Thank you, Kelly and Dr. Dawes, for your insights and inspiring message. Before I introduce our moderator for today's panels, let me thank all of you for attending Denny's first ever Mental Health and Wellness Summit. We believe this is a very important day to address issues that are affecting all of us. We can all benefit from learning and listening to each other. We are hoping today you will leave here with practical information that will help you live happier and healthier lives. Now let us shift gears to the next portion of our program. We will take a deeper dive into the issues and have our experts share their insights on 2 panels. Our first on mindful eating, food connected to wellness, and our second panel, wellness at work, wellness in the workplace and community. To lead our panel discussions, we have invited a journalist who has earned the name of the voice of Black America. Roland Martin has been passionate about news his entire life. Throughout high school, college, and now for more than 25 years, he has worked local, regional, and national news outlets, interviewing many of the nation's top newsmakers. Roland, who seems to work 24/7, is founder of the Black Star Network, a streaming network that features a variety of shows focused on news, culture, finance, and wellness and history. He is also the host and managing editor of Roland Martin Unfiltered, the first daily online show in history focused on news and analysis of politics, entertainment, sports, and culture from an explicitly African-American perspective. And did I mention he also produces 2 daily commentaries on iHeartRadio's Black Information Network, heard on 40 stations around the country? Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Roland Martin.
Hey, how we doing? Got the right music. So when we met, I told him, I said, that bland, upbeat music will not work. And then even Kelly was like, yeah, I need a walk-up song too. So we had to change the music flow. So glad to be here, glad to be back in South Carolina, glad to see the people who are in the room. I know there are a lot of people who are watching virtually as well, so glad to have everyone here as well. They did give me a script. I tell them I'm not reading from it, so don't even worry about it. So we're going to make this fun and engaging conversation for everybody. So let's go ahead and get started. I want to bring out our panelists. So I'm going to bring out all 3, and then I'll tell you exactly who they are. So Sharon Likens, come on out. Dr. Monique May, come on out. Dr. Shanita Johnson, come on out, please. All right. Yeah, y'all can take a seat, take a seat. I'm not sitting down, so don't worry about it. I don't sit down at these things. I like to walk around, keep it moving, keep it moving. And so first off, let me go ahead and introduce y'all to or read these bios. You know what? That's boring. Tell each one of y'all, that's boring. So Shanika, I'll start with you. Give us one really interesting thing about you that no one would know about. First of all, the bio's in the program, so y'all can read it.
I am one of very few African-American surgeons that are also in the space of climate change and how it impacts our health.
Okay, that's nice. Can you give us something fun?
Something fun. I'm from the Bahamas, and so every now and then you'll hear the accent come out. So if you hear that lilting accent, it's from the Bahamas.
So you want some conch back there, that's what you...
Yeah, conch is good. Some fried fish would be better.
See, that's all there you go. See. I knew we were going to get around to something dealing with food, so I'm just trying to tell you. I knew that was going to happen. All right, tell us something interesting.
Oh, gosh.
No one would expect.
I'm a former scuba diver, and I've done, the deepest dive I ever did was 150 or so shipwreck dive.
Nice.
Wow. Ain't that many black people be doing that?
Not that many.
I'm a land-based brother, just letting y'all know. I don't do all that. When the fish start playing golf, I'll start scuba diving. All right, Sharon, go ahead.
Throughout my career, I've done some international work, and so I've been on pretty much every continent except for Antarctica, and who wants to go there anyway? It's too cold.
You've been on all the continents except Antarctica.
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow, yeah, it is too damn cold.
Yeah.
That's good. All right, so now we'll do this here. So, your absolute favorite food or your favorite meal. I want to do that, lead into this conversation about, first of all, mindful eating. Okay. We got to start. Favorite meal or favorite food?
So
first.
without question, and people at Denny's, anybody who works with me for half a minute knows that it's ice cream. I do not end a day without it.
What flavor?
Depends on the brand.
Depends on the brand.
Depends on the brand.
Well, I'm from Texas, so it's all Bluebell for us.
That's hard. That's hard for me to answer. I mean, pretty much anything I cook is my favorite. But if I had to say one thing, mac and cheese.
All right.
Okay, that's easy. My favorite is mango. There's a picture of me at like months old with 2 mangoes in my hand in diapers. Just mango juice coming down. I'll try anything with mango.
You have mango juice and diapers. What the hell are diapers for?
Ask my parents. My mother's in the
I
audience.
know now, I'm just messing with you. I'm like, the mango juice and diapers, I'm like, how they go together? Well, look, my grandparents from Louisiana, so for me it's gumbo. Period. And also I know how to make it. So if you make bad gumbo, I will tell you, this ain't real gumbo. All right, so let's hop it right into it. So I'll throw this out to each one of you first. What is mindful eating? What is that? What does that even mean?
I'll start. So basically, mindful eating is being aware and being present and being in tune to what you're eating, enjoying it from all your senses and just what you're thinking and feeling at the time that you're actually eating. So being present.
I'd say it's being deliberate about what you're eating, when you're eating, how you're eating, taking time to eat. You know, that 30 minutes of lunchtime, that's important, right? Take away that time away from the stress of your job, decrease your stress hormone levels, your cortisol levels, so that you eat well, so that you're not eating late at night and disturbing your sleep cycles. You know, it's very, very important to be very deliberate, I would say.
I would agree with that. I think it's thinking about the choices that you make, and not just for the day, but for the week, for the month. If I'm eating ice cream every night, which I do, I have to make choices in the day,
Right,
to allow me to do that later in the day.
Well, first of all, when you were talking about, like I said, when you're at lunch, for 30 minutes.
Sorry?
Thank God I'm the CEO. That ain't gonna be 30. Not gonna be 30 minutes. But what's interesting about that is you'll be with some folks and they're rushing through, and I'm sitting there going, look, the work is gonna be there when you get back. Or you have the people who, no, I gotta eat lunch at my desk, and they're not actually understanding that it's not just the eating, but it's the atmosphere, it's the fellowship or whatever, and so it goes beyond just what you're rushing to put into your mouth. Because again, it's a dynamic that's important there to me that helps balance your life as opposed to just shoving food in your mouth. Speak about it from that aspect as well, because so many people in the workplace, again, they're so fixated on, no, I got to just rush through it, as opposed to, no, you're taking your time, boy, enjoying your company and the food.
No, I think that's a very valid point. I think the more intentional you are with your eating, you're able to show up better in your role, in your job. And it's not just in your job, it's also at home. But it's okay to be selfish, and that's not even really being selfish, to take time to eat, right? Our society kind of is run, gun. But it's really important to be selfish so that you can show up for others, you can be yourself, you can actually be your full self, you can bring all your talents to bear. Because if you're hangry, or if your stomach is still processing what you ate because you gobbled it down too fast, you're probably gonna be a little distracted, and you're not gonna really fully show up as you need. So taking that time to put your fork down between bites and take smaller bites and really tune in and taste what you're thinking, taste what you're eating, really, will help you, I think, show up better in your role and be more a better employee.
I think what you're getting at, Roland, is the connection we're talking about between your food and your mental health. And so it's not just about what you're eating, but how you're eating, the space you're eating, and that really cascades into the rest of your life, right? So we really need to make sure we're guarding our mental health and our mental space. So 30 minutes at lunchtime, that's a short time. Make that the best 30 minutes of your lunch that you can do, meaning look at what you're eating, who you're eating with, making sure that you're getting good hormones, processed during that time, because your mental health is really very important.
Like, I can't eat with whiners. Folk, no, I'm serious. There's nothing worse than having a good meal and somebody's whining, complaining. You're like, oh, why the hell did they come to lunch with me? And because, so seriously, and see, for me also, I love music. And so it's the whole deal. And so there's the notion of mindful. I'm very mindful of who I do not want to eat with. Because they will screw the meal up and the rest of the day, in terms of their attitude.
Very true. You can carry that stress through the rest of the day into the evening, not sleep well that night, and that cascades into the next day. So very, very important. Mindfulness.
If I may just add, what you're talking about is protecting your peace, basically. And that is such an important concept that carries over into everything we do. But definitely, if you want to enjoy a meal, you don't want that negativity impacting that. So protecting your peace is very crucial.
All right, so all three of you work. So have y'all done this again? This is the whole concept of, mindful eating. Have you actually been at lunch or dinner, and it could have been with family or friends, and you had to say, I'm going to need you to put your phone down?
Oh, yeah. I have a teenage son, of course.
Well, I have a daughter. She's in college now, but as she was in the house, we don't bring our phones to the table, period. The phones are in another room. And
Really?
We had dinner. We sat down to dinner at least 3 times a week, depending on, because you've got dance class and all the other things that happen. But we sat down to dinner because I think there's, this is just personal opinion, but I do think that there is something to be said about that community that you have at the dinner table and the discussions that come up, and just to be able to have a conversation and help them learn as they grow to defend their viewpoints, to have a disagreement without being disagreeable on, at the dinner table. And where is a better place to learn that than at the table with your family?
Now that's with kids, but I'm talking about what have you done with coworkers or other grown folk? Because again, see, now some of y'all like, why he had to go there? Bring it up. Because that still is a part of it, because sometimes, like, I've had to remind people who are very busy people, I'm going, yo, put the phone down. You can actually, they can actually wait. And the person said to me, it never occurred to me that I can actually tell them, no, they can actually wait. I said, you have to, matter of fact, I was literally telling someone this morning, I said, are you carving out time for you? I said, because she was talking about, I'm stressed and it's just work. And I said, oh, it'll be there. I said, but you have to actually do that. And she wasn't even realizing how she was putting everyone and everything before and wasn't enjoying her time and her space.
Not only are you devaluing yourself, you're devaluing the person that you're talking to, right? So you're devaluing their time and their presence because you won't lift your eyes from your phone. So you're not doing active listening, you're not actively participating in that conversation. So I think it's really important that we take time away from these screens. And we just heard the statistic that the 18 to 24-year-old group is the loneliest group. It has to be this reason. I think COVID, of course, has contributed to that significantly, but it's the screen use that continues to increase year after year.
But I think one of the things that we have to remember, though, when we talk about the 18 to 24, and so I am very tech savvy. I don't need my nieces and nephews to teach me a damn thing. In fact, they come to me like, Uncle Roro, I don't know how to use this. Can you show me how to do it? So I don't need their help with it. But I think we also forget, they were literally born into this world. Like my 3-year-old nephew got a hold of my iPad, found Netflix inside one of my folders, went there he was watching his favorite cartoon. I was like, Chris, what are you doing? He's like, cartoon?
Wow.
Like, how the hell did you find? And so he was 3. He knew how to navigate my iPad to find Netflix to find his favorite cartoon. And so that generation was literally born in technology. So I think a lot of times we forget that that's all they've known. their entire lives, and then you have parents that have put their whole lives on social media as well. And so part of that is actually what is learned behavior. And so I think we have to actually, to your point, mandate that up front. No, we're going to carve out spaces where you have to put these things away to enjoy one's company.
I don't know that I would do that to an adult. That's interesting.
Oh, I
I
have.
don't know if I would.
Oh,
No,
I
I'm just being
have.
honest. I don't know that I would say,
I have.
Kelly, put your phone down. I don't know that I would do that.
I would. No, see, no. But see, here's why. Because even adults forget. I mean, I've literally have dealt with folks, coworkers or others, or people, friends of mine, and they never dawned on them that they were so locked into every time it pinged, or this came in, and I'm sitting there going, you're not even enjoying the meal. You're not even present. And by calling their attention, I then said, but you do this all the time as well, or you might be someone there step out. I said, if you're at a show, whatever, I said, you have to enjoy where you are because it will be there. And they said, no one ever actually said that to me. I'm like, yes, and I'm telling you that right now. And that's why, because I'm watching their body language, and I'm watching how they're just, everything is in a rush, and I'm like, you got to slow all that stuff down. And it never occurred to them that they were actually doing that, which also told me they were doing it other hours of the day as well. And that was having an absolute impact on their mental health, because the woman I was texting this morning, she was just talking about how frustrated she was, how she was tired, and she was just going, and I'm listening to her and I'm going, yeah, you're going to have to learn, you're going to have to step away from some stuff. And through our conversation, she really just had opened up about how it was impacting her physically, what she was eating, and mentally, all of those pressures, because she was connected all the time. She never disconnected.
I haven't thought about it in a meal. I think about it in meetings when an email pops up and you're in a meeting, and I don't know where the quote came from, but it always comes to my mind, be here now. And so that's kind of, in my mind, what I try to do, at least in a meeting, is be here not now. Try not to pay attention to email and that kind of thing when it comes up. It's interesting.
Yeah, because
translate that to a meal.
It's the whole getaway, because it's the getaway concept. That was a survey that came out a few weeks ago that talked about the percentage of time men spend in bathrooms. And the reason I cracked up when I saw it, because I'm telling you, it was funny as hell when I read it. Because growing up, my dad always called the bathroom the library. Because it wasn't even a 2,000 square foot house. They had 5 kids. That was the only place you could get away from everybody. Nobody would knock on the door. And so when I saw this story, again, so the concept of how to get away. And that to me is when I think about this notion of eating for wellness, you're talking about the physical but also mental, it's the idea of getting away from everybody. And that's also what does it. Who also cooks? Who cooks? You like, I ain't cooking. You like, she like, I ain't. She like, I pray to God to make enough money to go out and eat. I bet you got all delivery apps, huh? You got all of them, all right? You got DoorDash, Uber Eats.
Meal prep, you name it.
That's right there. You probably working on your own app right now. So, for you, those who do cook, is that also something that helps for you mentally, that allows for you just to be in your own world?
Well, for me, it's part of my job, number one. So we have that on a daily basis, but also I have what I call weekday cooking and weekend cooking. Weekday cooking is I need to grill a chicken breast and steam some vegetables, and I got to get this done and let's eat because it's mealtime and there's 100 things going on. Weekend cooking for me is the release. So am I going to bake some kind of cake that I love to bake. So am I going to bake some kind of cake? Am I going to make some homemade pasta? Am I going to do something? And again, that goes back to getting the family in the room and doing those things together. For me, that's the release to the weekend cooking.
Definitely for me. I mean, how much time do you have? But as a physician in the kitchen, I mean, I refer to my kitchen as my lab because I enjoy going in there, mixing stuff up, trying or creating new recipes. And something I learned when I was in culinary school, where we had to actually take pictures of each step that we were making, describe what it tasted like. So that really, for me, was kind of a crash course on mindfulness, because I had to, paint a picture for someone reading this about, what it is I did, how I did it, how it tasted, the different types of flavors that were present. And so I enjoy that. I enjoy creating. For me, it's expressive. And then when I get to, create and eat something that's pretty, it smells good, it tastes good, and then to share it. It's not, I don't want to just eat it on myself.
Right.
My parents live nearby, they often get, meals. And so, yeah, all of that for me is definitely my happy place.
Who cooks the music?
Oh.
So
I
you
have
cooking,
speakers
you
in my-
doing that dance,
Oh,
and
yeah. I have my house built with
Sometimes.
speakers, so.
It just depends on what's going on.
what are you playing?
Generally, whatever is, I'll turn on the TV and you get to like the 900s, and there's something, a lot of times it's.
She's like, I don't know, just turn to 938.
I
I don't know.
like
What's your
all kinds
playlist?
of
I don't know,
music.
927.
I like all kinds of music, so it just depends on what mood I'm in.
It depends. It could be reggae. It could be old school hip hop. I'm from New York, the Bronx, so it could be R&B from the 80s and 90s. It just depends.
Now, since you don't cook, are you taste testing? What are you doing?
Yeah, I never really developed that as I was growing up. It's not a love for me. I developed other hobbies and so on. And so that means I have to be a little bit more intentional about what I'm eating and how I'm getting my food prepared and who I'm utilizing and so on. But I don't share that music. Music is in my operating room, but not in my kitchen. That's just
Are you
not-
serious?
Yes, of course.
I got music all over the house. I'm always playing something.
Yeah, no, not in the kitchen as much. So being, again, very mindful of how I'm going about what I'm going to eat for the day, for the week, for the month, and so on.
All right, so we're talking about, so we mentioned the wellness part, because I think that the one thing that I have a problem with, and I'm interviewing numerous people on my show about this here, is that when we talk about eating, there's such a fixation today on eating the right stuff, such as this morning, like, okay, Roland, which bacon? You want bacon or turkey bacon? And I was like, hey, you ever seen bacon come out of a turkey? I'm like, give a brother some real bacon. And so, but then you get the people who are so, oh no, you can't have that, you need to have the turkey. I'm like, man, be quiet. And so sometimes it reaches a point where we've been inundated with so much information about food that it literally will drive you crazy. This whole, everyone's like, what's healthy and what's not or whatever. So how do you help folks navigate that we've got so much information, and I swear on a given day, everything is bad or everything is good. And some people are like, man, I don't know what to make out of all of this.
I'll take that, because a lot of my platform is just that. I think it starts with mindfulness and kind of identifying your why. If you want to make changes, if you're not happy with what you're eating, how you're eating, and you've identified, either you yourself or your doctor told you, you need to make some changes, at the end of the day, you need to identify your why. What's triggering this need for a change or desire for a change? And then once you've identified that, start where you are. I tend to try to shy away from labels. I mean, you've got vegan, plant-based, vegetarian, pescatarian, all these labels.
I'm from Texas. We like meat.
Well, there you go. And so you have to do, at the end of the day, what you put on your plate is definitely a personal choice. But what I try to encourage people is to get the best quality that you can. If you're going to be a meat eater, how is your meat grown? Is it organic? Is it, what do you call it, with all the hormones and antibiotics? At least get the best that you have access to, so that your body will work better. It's like a Porsche, right? You don't go buy a expensive car and then put cheap gas in it and expect it to race down the highway, right? It's going to knock, it's going to ping. I'm impressed that I know those words for cars. But my point is, you want to put the premium fuel in it, and your body should be treated no less than your car. So whatever you have the access to, do that. Now, if you want to be plant-based, then, and go down that road, then there are ways to do that. But I think at the end of the day, identifying what's important to you, your reason for doing it, and I think you'll be more successful sticking to whatever changes you decide to implement.
So the reason I asked that, I mean, I've had numerous physical fitness folks and all these folks on here, and to everyone they say, Roland, we can talk about this stuff all day, but the reality is it's 90-10, 80-20, what you eat, how much you eat, when you eat, that actually dictates your weight, things along those lines. And then when I have the food folks on, the one thing that they say is that they try to get people to not be so locked into, eating these right things and sort of stuff like that. They say, look, portion size. Every single dietitian I've had on the show talks about that because they're trying to demystify this whole thing because people, it has gotten so crazy. Like even now, everybody is a TikTok, YouTube, Twitter dietitian. And I'm sitting there going, man, I didn't realize there's so many of y'all who are food experts out there. Like if you're cooking something, whatever. And so that's why I think it's important with the information that, yeah, we demystify and not just beat folks up on it so bad. Because at the end of the day, if you don't know, you don't know. And so once you begin to introduce different things into your diet, it can change, but it's actually a slow build-up process over long term versus going through a crash idea. Your thoughts on that?
I agree, and I think knowing how to read a label is crucial, and that's not something we talk about a lot.
How many of y'all actually?
Yes.
How many people here actually read a label? All y'all lying. Y'all know. Y'all are not reading that label. Okay, y'all not. Okay, who raised their hand? You reading the label? Okay, gotcha. All right. Okay, what you reading?
I read every label I look at for sugars.
Okay, you looking for sugar. All right, what you looking at? You looking for sugar. All right, what you looking at? You looking at salt. Okay, you looking at carbs. Okay, why you looking at carbs? You ain't got no reason to be looking at no damn carbs. You got no reason to be looking. My ass should be looking at carbs. You can skip the carbs. You fine with the carbs. All right. So since you brought that up, what should we actually be looking at 1, 2, 3 on a label?
You should be looking at the calories that is within that food. You should also be looking at the sodium, looking at the sugars, looking at the carbs. And one thing that we often skip over is the serving size. So you said portion control. You may think that, okay, the sugars are low, it's less than 5% of my daily value. This is a good thing that I can eat. However, there's 3 servings in what you're looking at. So if you eat the entire package, you've tripled that, and you're no longer within what we recommend for your daily value.
I think one area in that particular topic that is easy to confuse is something like a muffin. Or a muffin or a cookie. I think intuitively we think a muffin is a serving or a cookie is a serving, but
no,
they're not
a
all
muffin is a muffin.
So when you're reading that label, sometimes
I ain't never got that confused. My issue is 1 muffin or 2 muffins.
But sometimes that muffin, that serving size, sometimes it's a half a muffin. Or like if you go to some of these really cool bakeries that have these huge cookies and they're amazing, but a serving size sometimes is a quarter of a cookie. So when you're looking at that, I think that's a detail sometimes.
I ain't never seen a label on a croissant. I just go, give me 2 of those and heat them up. But you're absolutely right. I mean, in terms of when we are looking at that, and I'll probably say if I really do look at labels, typically it probably would be dealing with drinks. I don't actually do a lot of soft drinks. I just don't. I've never do so. I might do Snapple or some other stuff along those lines, but it's not. But it's rarely ever a soft drink. So that's probably the one thing I look at. But you can also get label craze because see, part of the problem now is with so much packaging, that's also marketing. So you got all kind of different names and stuff on it. And so since we got you here, so if I actually want it, it's not gonna happen. But if I actually wanted to eat off the healthiest, even let's take the Denny's menu. What should I'm not gonna do it. So this is really a theoretical conversation we having. I'm really representing the people here because Roland not gonna do it. I already know what I want: blueberry pancakes, hard scrambled eggs, real damn bacon, orange juice. We good. And if they got real grits, can bring me some grits. And so same thing. So if I'm going to a Denny's and I'm trying to be conscious, okay, what should I actually order?
So let me step back just a second. So we were talking about this person might be looking for carbs, and this person might be on a paleo diet, and this person might be on a paleo diet, you know, where they don't really
like
cook a lot
some
of
Greek
things.
Roman stuff.
But you never know.
Right.
And so as Denny's, we really can't tell you how to eat. What we can do is provide the information to you so you can make your choices. I think one of the things that we do, especially on our app, if you're on our app and online, when you're making those choices, you can make them right then and there. So when you look at our Grand Slam, you're going to make your Grand Slam choice. You can see, do I want scrambled eggs for 300 calories? Do I want over easy eggs for 190? Or do I want egg whites for 90?
Nope.
So I can save. So
I
I
need
can
the
go
yellow
ahead
and
and
the white.
save 100 calories by choosing those egg whites instead of the regular.
Got it.
Then your bacon, you're down to your, okay, now I'm on my Grand Slam, I chose my eggs, now I want my bacon. Okay, do I want turkey bacon?
Nope.
Or do I want regular bacon? If I choose turkey bacon, I'm gonna save 30 calories. So
Give me the 30 calories.
So now you did that, I saved 130 calories. Now, do I want hash browns or do I want fruit? Now, hash browns are 200 calories, fruit's 100 calories. I can save another 100 calories. So I can save 230 calories like that by my choices that I made right then and there.
Okay, hold on. What's in the fruit?
So it depends on the season because we do it seasonally.
Okay.
So it depends on the season. But what's great about the app is literally it's scrambled eggs, 300 calories. You can read it right then and there and make your choices immediately. We are so transparent. Now, at the bottom of the page, too, then you have the link for additional nutritional information. So if you are looking for your sodium or you're looking for those other things, you just pop that link and it takes you right there.
Okay.
Now, if you don't have that on your phone, you can ask at the restaurant.
Because there's some flip phone people in the audience. They cannot access the app. They can't even text. So
we do have printed copies at the restaurant. You just have to ask for it. So the information is there. We want to help you make your good choices, and we have lots of options.
It was like we were in the green room, and so what Larry said, yeah, I said, look, just bring me blueberry pancakes. Larry's like, oh, can you bring me the 9 grain? I was like, no, bring me the 7 grain. No, the 9 grain. Okay, all right, the 9 grain. Larry can't mention none of them 9 grains, but he just wanted the 9 grain. Where you at, Larry? Larry don't know not one. Larry, give me one of them 9 grains. Give me 1 grain, Larry. Larry can't name one of them grains. He just knows 9 grains. Somebody read it and said, just eat the damn 9 grains. He don't know. Go ahead.
I was just going to add, in general, when you're looking at any menu.
Told you I was going to bring it up. Go ahead.
When you're looking at any menu, the healthier, to answer your question about that, the healthier things are going to be described as toasted or roasted, grilled or air fried or baked, whereas things like creamy or stuffed.
Doc, we in South Carolina. You got to lead with fried.
Well, okay,
it's fried.
There you go.
Then the other stuff you mentioned.
But so creamy or stuffed.
Ain't nothing baked in South Carolina.
Or loaded are going to be the things you want to, breaded, things like that are going to add those calories on. So.
I think it goes back to just being mindful, and I like that we have more information. Yes, more information can raise your anxiety levels, try to figure it all out. But there's a few things that you should be looking for. If you have high blood pressure, you're looking for the sodium. If you have diabetes, you're looking for the sugar levels. You're looking for the carb levels. You're looking for the overall calories. If you have kidney disease, you're looking for the sodium. These are the things that you should be discussing with your doctor and your dietitian.
And one more little just thing about that too is when you're reading the label and the ingredients, the first 3 to 5 things on that label are going to be what's it's in descending order. So those are what's going to be in the food by decreasing amounts. But if you see things that look more like they belong in a chemistry class, words that you have a difficult time pronouncing, you might want to shy away from that because that just means it's more processed. But also things like sodium or words ending OSC means that there's sugar. So those are just some of the ways you can start to identify.
Words
some of
that
the
ending in OSE.
indicate typically some type of
Got
sugar,
it.
like fructose, glucose, things like that.
That's for you
It's-
non-label reading people.
Right. So, or if it says sodium, or if it says salt, I mean, obviously those are going to be higher in those things. Fat can be described as shortening or lard or things like that. So there are words to look for as well when you're reading labels to see what's hidden in those foods.
All right, so we talk about mindful eating. There's still this constant debate of like the whole food pyramid and all this sort of stuff. So they keep saying fruits and vegetables. So being the first lady, Michelle Obama, we had this debate because I did an interview with her in her garden, and she was all into the vegetables. And I'm like, Doc, like, I said, look, first lady, I don't eat all them vegetables. My dad had vegetable wheat growing up. I was like, dude, come on. He squash, all the vegetables. I hate all of them. I think I eat 4. Cabbage, okra, corn, the vegetable. Yes, it is. Right next to the other stuff. I think green beans, but they got to be made. They can't be the soul food green beans cut in half. I hate those green beans. So that's just all I eat. You can keep broccoli, peas, and all the rest of that stuff. I mean, I'm gonna end up cussing you out if you feed me that stuff. Asparagus, Brussels sprouts, none of that sort of stuff. So that's just me, y'all. So can I replace that with fruit? Because you keep saying fruit and vegetables. So if I don't eat 30 of the vegetables, I can have some fruit.
Well, technically, some of the...
Doc, I ain't asked you technically. This ain't a technical question, Doc. It's food.
Okay, so the short answer, yes. But
Okay, next question. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead and explain.
It goes back to my comment before. Getting access or eating whatever is the best you can eat. If for you it's just fruits, we'll take that. But
Which fruits?
Any fruit that you will eat.
Grapes, strawberries.
So going back to our comments about
Hold. I heard a no in there. Hold up.
Well, it depends.
Go ahead.
It really depends on your health issues.
Got
right? The average person, yes. If you're diabetic and you're needing to watch your sugars, there is something called the glycemic index, which is how high your sugars go
Right.
up after eating certain foods. So of course, certain fruits, because they have those natural sugars, are going to drive that number up. So with your doctor
Green
and
apples?
your dietitian, green apples are probably on the medium end of that spectrum, I would think. But again, working with your doctor and your dietitian to find out what you need would be key. But I just want to say that a lot of the vegetables that we think of are actually fruits, technically, because they have seeds. So you mentioned squash. That's actually a fruit because the seeds are inside. Tomatoes, avocados are technically fruits. So when you say fruits and vegetables, I'm like, well, it depends on what you're calling vegetable, what you're calling
Doc, I said fruits. Bananas, apples, grapes, strawberries, raspberries, blueberries.
The more the better. Eat the rainbow. Eat all those colors.
All right, cool. All right, we good then. We gonna fight on the other stuff. So I asked what y'all like. What food you hate? You like? I'm not eating that.
Okra.
Avocado.
Avocado?
Sorry.
I'm with you. Look like baby poop. I'm with you. I'm with you. We're right there.
Okra.
Oh.
And my mom is watching this.
Oh. Hold on. What you just say?
Okra. I can't do okra.
Hey y'all, her black card is in review. Her black card is in review status right now.
I have texture issues. I can't do okra.
You have texture issues?
Yes, that's a whole nother conversation.
You mentioned all them other slimy vegetables, and you got a problem with okra.
There's nothing as slimy as okra.
Are you? Ain't nothing. A pea and a.
What?
Ooh,
What peas are you eating?
Lord have. You like peas?
Yes.
You chose peas over okra?
All day, every day. And
What
twice on
is
Sunday.
wrong with you?
They're not slimy.
Oh my God. Who likes peas? All y'all are sick in the head. Okay, I'm sorry. All right, go. What food item you will cuss people out if they try to feed you that food?
I also have texture issues, and I hate green beans. I hate green beans with passion.
What is wrong with the both of y'all?
But I love okra.
She trying to get your black card.
That's right.
She trying to come to the cookout, so she's like, look, I'll eat her okra.
Hey, I got a huge Lang smoker. I got the cookout. I'm
Okay,
all
see,
over it.
so I'm with you on that one. I'm with you on that one. All right, we have time for questions. Y'all supposed to feed me the questions here. We got a microphone over here. And so we get two or three people who, if you got a question, come on to the microphone. Don't be scared. Y'all like, I am not asking him a question. So just slide right over here. We got the microphone over here. We all, yeah, because we also, she like all over that. Yes, get some steps in. We're live streaming the event. So there are a lot of people who are watching online. So we need to show you over here. So we got the camera, we got lights, all that good stuff. So make your way over to the microphone. Don't be scared. I won't bite. I'll bark, but I won't bite. There you go, right there. State your name, where you're from, and your question.
10 feet tall. My name is Jan Griffin. I've retired for 2 years from USC Upstate. I was a professor of psychology.
Got it.
It's not so much a question, but both of you mentioned, I think, nutritionists or dietitians. Who has a dietitian? I mean, I go to my doctor, but I mean, or nutritionists? I know nobody. And I have kids who are medical doctors that have dietitians or nutritionists. Where do you have access?
Great
and
question.
Are they expensive?
Great question.
Very, very good question. And you do have access. There are lots of dietitians.
First of all, what does a dietitian do?
A dietitian will look at your diet and will help you tailor your diet to get the best results for yourself.
So the dietitian takes the information from your doctor and then says, all right, let's put a meal plan together for you in order to make these numbers better or whatever.
They see where you're starting from.
They're a food coach.
They are, but all of that, they're an expert in food. That's really what they are. They're an expert in food. So I do weight loss surgery, so that is an integral part of what I do. My patients meet with a dietitian for at least 6 months before surgery.
Wow.
So they have a lot of access to dietitians. But when you see your doctor, you are able to ask for a dietitian consultation. That is something most insurance will cover, and you have access to. And it's really important that you do so.
Cool.
Yeah.
You also want?
I was just going to say, and if you're diabetic or have certain health conditions, that should very much be a part of your treatment plan. So it's a multidisciplinary team approach.
So how do y'all use dietitians in developing your menu?
So we actually have a registered dietitian on staff who does all of our nutritional analysis in-house. And so the information that we put on our website is all done. And we audit our information about 3 or 4 times a year. We'll go grab your Grand Slam from Oklahoma and send it off to a lab to have it analyzed to make sure that our information is correct that we give you. And then if there's somebody who has an additional question, maybe they didn't find exactly what they were looking for on the nutritional guide or the allergen guide, and they have another question about, do you use blue dye in anything on your menu? That information, they can call the call center and they will put you with our dietitian and she can talk through those things with you. She will not give you advice on what your doctor says, but she will be very transparent and help explain what is in our menu if you didn't find the information that you needed in the information.
Cool. Any other questions? Mic's open. Okay, there you go.
Hi, I'm Walter Lee, an assistant professor here at the University of South Carolina Upstate, and I do have a question.
Assistant professor of what?
Middle level education.
Thank you.
Boom. All right, so teachers are often tasked with watching or monitoring students during lunch. How can we advocate for teacher wellness in a system that may not protect their self-care or meals in the workplace?
Who wants that first?
That's a great question, and I think ideally, you should have more than one teacher in the classroom. It doesn't always happen. But we need to be able to, like we do for nurses, nurses will trade out their time. They will cover for each other so that they can have break times and lunch times. It's very important in the educational system, too. I'm a product of educators, and you work very, very hard, and it's a very high-stress job. So you need that time for yourself, for your own mental health as well.
All right. Next question, and let me know if we have online questions, folks. Go ahead.
Hi, Hi, Sarah Joseph, Associate Director for Fitness here at USC Upstate. I think this conversation has been really interesting as it relates to, some really great swaps that people can make. One thing that I think it's important to consider, especially when we're talking about mindful eating, that I would love to hear all of your perspectives on is kind of when I'm working with some of our students, faculty, and staff here, it is wonderful for them to be able to have that information accessible to them in terms of nutrition information and learning how to be health literate in terms of labels and things of that nature. But certainly for some people, they can take it maybe a little bit too far. And I'm not even talking about kind of eating disorder spectrum, but having that information and looking at that information can become very all-consuming.
And it becomes extreme.
It becomes extreme, and that's not sustainable. So I guess I would love to hear more about your perspectives on advocating for a little bit more of mindful eating as it relates to recognizing how certain foods make your body feel, as well as being able to focus a little bit less on that restriction mindset of, okay, I can only have this amount of calories, and more on, okay, adding in more of the good stuff, because ultimately nutrition is a zero-sum game, and if you are focusing on eating more of that, healthy and nourishing food, as a byproduct of that, you're going to eat less.
I've like gone to lunch and dinner with people who I'm like, look, I need you to relax, okay? Like we're not counting everything. I mean, like they were just so like overboard with it that they were so rigid that it was actually driving me crazy. And I said, you're gonna drive yourself crazy being that rigid about everything. Speak to that.
It's anxiety provoking. Let's say you're trying to lose weight, right? And you're trying to limit what you eat. If I had asked you to step away from smoking, you don't need to smoke to live, but you got to eat to live.
Right.
So you're trying to limit something that you are required to do to keep yourself alive. I did not mention that a part of our program is actually counseling, psychology. And so all of my patients will meet with a psychologist because these all work hand in hand. And it's really important that you know how to cope with anxiety, with stressors, and so on. That can manifest in your eating very easily.
My approach would be, or recommendation would be to keep a food diary. I think something as simple as, and it could be on your phone, it doesn't have to be a formal diary, but maybe for a 1 to 2 week period, write down what you eat, when you ate it, what you were feeling, why you ate. Were you hungry? Were you sad? Were you bored? Because we call comfort food for a reason, right? Because food serves other purposes than just nutrition and nourishment. And anything other than water that you drink that you're taking in. And then note just simple how you felt physically. After you ate that large steak dinner, did your stomach just feel blah? Or did you feel, whatever? And then that way you're accountable to yourself. You have real-time data, and you can go back and say, oh, well, I noticed when I ate more vegetables, I felt a certain way. Or when I ate, I'm trying to get it riled up. Or when I ate this, I felt sluggish, or I couldn't concentrate. However, that shows up. And just do that for a week or two and see how you feel and make adjustments based on that.
We got a quick online question. If I do nothing else today, what's the one immediate step I can take from a diet perspective that can improve my wellness?
Replace sugary beverages. Start drinking more water instead of sugary beverages.
I agree. I would say probably eating more vegetables.
I hate to tell you this, but broccoli makes you beautiful. So vegetables are important.
This DNA is good. At 54, I'm good.
But, I think too, like you have sometimes foods. You don't think about good foods and bad foods. You think about these are sometimes foods and these are anytime you want foods. And broccoli makes you beautiful.
All right, well, folks, that's this panel. Give it up for them. Round of applause. Dr. May is going to be signing her book in the lobby when we're done. Hey, we got 2 minutes left. Sarah, come on. Come on. Yes, you. Your name is Sarah. Come. All right. So these people have been sitting down. You need to get them up. So you got a 60-second workout. So get them up and have them do something. Panel, you too.
All right.
Kelly, come out here. Come on, Kelly. All right. So because part of this whole deal, we need to have more movement in our life, right? So don't sit in this room for 4 hours, right? Kelly, right here, Kelly. Sarah's gonna make us do something. Okay, Sarah, what we gonna do? Grab that okra. Oh, the other right. Sorry. I'm left-handed, so. Hey, play some workout music. Some yoga music. There you go. See, I'd rather dance than do yoga. Girl, what you doing over there? There we go. There we got it. Larry like, I can't do that. That's because you had them migraines. Well, that's a Michael Jackson move. 2, 1. Give it up for Sarah, y'all. All right, taking a short break, and then we'll be back for our second panel.
That was fun. Thank you.
All right, no problem. See why I don't do script?
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please take your seats? We will resume in 2 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. We will resume in 2 minutes. Thank you.
Hey everybody, I am very excited to join you today and talk about the Denny's story. Our brand purpose is clear. We love to feed people, bodies, minds, and souls. Our brand positioning is crystal clear. America's diner for today's America. And together they serve as a sort of double North Star that guides us in who we are and what we do as a brand. We were literally about to commission a really large research study to determine that purpose when we came across an old newspaper clipping from the late 1950s that profiled our founder, Harold Butler. And the reporter asked Mr. Butler at the time why he kept his doors open 24/7 when nobody else was staying open late. His simple response at the time was, "Because I love to feed people." We immediately realized the richness and depth of that quote. Because I love to feed people is more than just providing food to guests. It's more than just feeding stomachs, which is the literal translation of the quote. But it was so much more, and lined up with what we were doing in so many ways already as a brand beyond the functional area of feeding people. So we realized that feeding people, both functionally and emotionally, was really where the magic was, and exactly the why behind our brand and what we were starting to do and do even more of as America's Diner. Let's start with feeding bodies. Probably the most obvious one, because of course, this is what we do at our core as a restaurant brand. It's as close to the basics as we can get, but that's truly where it all begins. Our job starts by delivering on what our guest is asking for. Just give me a good meal. But to do it right and to continue to grow into the future, we have to exceed expectations. And next there is feeding minds. This one is interesting because we take it a couple different directions. In one primary sense, a big part of our focus is to make the guests feel good about choosing Denny's. We want to make them feel like they've made a smart choice. But feeding people's minds is also something we do with many of our efforts in the community. Our prime example here is our Hungry for Education Scholarship Program. So since 2011, we have awarded nearly $2 million in combined scholarships to elementary or high school or college students across the country. And then finally, there's arguably the most important role we get to play, feeding the soul. So if you break it down a bit, feeding souls is what restaurant brands do at their core every single day. But there's a lot more here too. Feeding people's souls has helped drive quite a bit of our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. Over the decades, our efforts have centered around impacting communities by supporting diverse causes that are important to our guests locally and nationally. We are proud members of CEO Action for Racial Equity, representing more than 100 CEO Action signatory organizations, which is focused on improving the lives of the 47+ million Black Americans through advocacy and advancement of public policies that will root out and end systemic racism. Internally, we have recently established business resource groups for Hispanics, LGBTQ+, women, young leaders, and veterans that have become a dynamic way for employees to connect with each other and the community. So the bottom line for us is that at America's Diner, with a diverse customer base of millions and more diverse every day, we are committed to creating a place where our guests and our employees feel seen, they feel heard and respected simply because of who they are. And that's a fundamental part of our DE&I efforts. And another great example of our purpose, bodies, minds, and souls, coming to life is our Mobile Relief Diner. This 52-foot kitchen on wheels was created to relieve victims of natural disasters and others in need by serving a hot meal and a hug. And one of the things we learned after we launched the Mobile Relief Diner in 2017 is the impact it has had internally on our teams. To be candid, initially it was a what are we doing and why when we bought this massive truck and started sending it to sites around the country. But over time, and it didn't take too long, it became such a pride point within our system. We have team members and franchisees now not only wanting the truck to come visit their markets, but even more importantly, we have so many requests to actually serve on the Mobile Relief Diner. We have countless stories of team members from restaurants in different markets across the country that take their own personal time to literally drive hours and hours to serve on the Mobile Relief Diner. And our vendor partners step in to help too, in donating equipment or food or supplies. Truly has become a rally point for the brand and our work to feed people. And this one really hits on all fronts, feeding people's bodies, minds, and souls. And feeding people doesn't stop with the Mobile Relief Diner either. We are at the center of communities, giving back to local and national organizations that impact children and families. One of our key strategic partnerships is with No Kid Hungry, a wonderful organization and a great example of how we feed people beyond our four walls with purpose. We're also proud partners with St. Jude through a monetary donation from kids' meal entrees we serve. And our franchisees all across the country are encouraged to develop their own partnerships that will drive their business in their communities, all bound by our brand purpose of loving to feed people, again, bodies, minds, and souls. Thank you so much.
This is for them rough days.
Back.
Feel like giving updates.
All right, so y'all remember if y'all went to a black church, how the usher boy walk in, you know, with their hand behind their back, like this here. So I told the panel, they gotta walk in like the usher boy. So the panel, y'all come on out. I told them, put some Kirk Franklin on. Come on, panel. Come on. Y'all gotta come like the usher board.
I'm not sure what happened.
All right, y'all. Kelly Valade, Dr. Daniel Dawes, Dr. Benny Harris, Rebecca Bagley, they are our panel. Glad to have all of them here. So they were backstage trying to figure out how to answer the question, what's the most interesting thing about you? And so then they were trying to plot. I said, y'all know I'm not going to ask the same question again. I don't do repeats. So I have to ask this question, and that is, since we're talking about wellness at work, wellness in the workplace, what is the craziest thing you did at work that your bosses didn't know about? Did you like go watch a movie in the middle of the day? I did that many times. So is there something that you've done that that's wellness?
That's
I was
right.
being mindful about mental health.
Story.
So something could have been when you first started, your bosses had no idea that you went off to do during the workday.
I've taken naps at work. That's wellness. Sleep is good.
That's true. I've done that.
I have.
That was yesterday.
Exactly.
What you got?
When I get to know you better, I'll tell you a different story. But when I was pregnant, I actually moved a single bed into my office and slept every day pretty much. Took a nap.
Did they nose the bed in your office? Wow.
Sort of up
Okay,
behind
that's
it.
real good. That's a good one right there.
Oh, I don't know if this is a wellness thing, but I did close my office, took my shoes off, and watched the Murdoch's trial.
Oh.
It was funny.
Yeah.
Why you take your shoes off? Because I want to relax. Like, what the shoes got to do with it? All right, Daniel, what you got?
Gosh, I am such a rule follower. I'm struggling with this, but I would say that
You're the one who messed the curve up in the class all the damn time.
But as I was thinking, I thought, you know what? From a mental health standpoint, I would say
It ain't
the
got to be
same
mental
thing.
health standpoint. It can be whatever.
Well,
something you did at work, you like, if they find out I'm doing this.
I think it's the same thing. I locked my door. I was really sleep deprived, had been doing an all-nighter, and I was so tired that I locked the door and I took a little nap at the desk. So I would say that was probably the one.
All right, okay, at work. Trust me, I went to the movies. The 10 o'clock show was the cheapest, so I was like, yo, breaking news, just page me. We all good. All right, y'all did plan. So one interesting thing about you that no one would know.
Okay.
What you got?
Yes. So
what you got?
I'll start.
What you got?
This was mine.
Keep your damn shoes on.
Let me go first.
Go ahead.
No, Dad, you go ahead. I'll give it to you.
Go ahead.
All right, thank you. So we were having a competition because we both have the same passion. One interesting fact is that I come from a long line of farmers. Farming is in my DNA, and it's the #1 title that I embrace. So I love farming.
All right.
I have a bonus kid who moved in with us when he got kicked out of his house when he was 18. So he's been with us for 2 years.
All right.
I wanted to be a doctor when I was a kid. I grew up on a farm, too.
Yes.
So we had a lot of frogs around the house. So I dissected frogs.
You dissected frogs.
I used to have fun.
Did you cook them when you were done?
No.
I'm just checking. Just checking.
Mine's not that exciting. I live in 2 cities. Like, equally live in 2 cities.
Kelly, you had 20 minutes. To think about this. Matter of fact,
Yeah, but-
you had an hour.
Yeah, but what we decided that we are so uninteresting that we needed to collaborate. It was bad. It was bad back there.
Figure out.
I'm gonna have to take all y'all on a
We're
field
calling our
trip
friends.
or something. Oh
And
my.
that's still all I can. But then you said you weren't going to ask it. So then
Right.
Nah. I'm like,
I can stand a really long time on one leg when I'm not in heels. Like a really long time.
like what? 15 minutes?
I don't know if I've ever timed it that long, but a long time. I do a lot of yoga.
Oh, what you gonna do with that though? What is that?
Use it for an interesting
Like what? I don't
comment.
know what you're gonna do with that.
We-
It's not like your golf swing. Like, what you gonna do with that? I don't know. I'm just standing. Okay, all right. All right. That is interesting. All right. So let's get right to it. Okay. So this panel called Wellness at Work, Wellness in the Workplace Community. Kelly, this is a huge thing for you. Why? So did something happen when you previously worked where you felt these folks are not paying attention? Why did you say, hey, this is going to be a priority for me when I become the boss?
It's a great question. So first and foremost, what drew me to this company, and I've known leaders at Denny's and the prior CEO, and I've known and watched this team for years. I watched them through the pandemic when I was consulting for the restaurant business and watching how other companies led during the pandemic, watched companies that didn't lead so well. So part of what brought me to this company was knowing how purpose-driven we are, how much we give back. You saw that in the video, all the different programs. It is our foundation. It's not programmatic or episodic. It is who we are, and that purpose comes from 1953, like you just saw. So that was part of it. But then it was really such an amazing surprise to get here and then to get to this brand 8 months ago, and then just know that that was even an option. So I didn't think I'd go, my next job, I'll make this a priority. I saw it in the Elevators wellness series. I saw a Go Beyond series. I saw all these things that said, wow, this matters here. And then I was asked, what else can we be doing? What else is important to you that you can build on in terms of the amazing legacy already created by those before me, in terms of wellness, in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it just became then critical for me in listening to people's stories really early on. I started sharing that was a passion of mine. I will tell you personally, in my family, my son struggles at times, so it is personal for me. And then I've watched others at work struggle. And again, through the pandemic, I just thought, why are we not talking more about this? Who could look around and say, I'm the same? We're all the same for going through that. I struggle with that. Right. And then we seem to have come out of it and then stopped talking about it. Mm-hmm. Right? Like we all went through that for 3 years, and we should be bonded together we should be forever, better for what we went through. And instead, it's like,
well, it was a rush to get back to how things were. Right. Yeah. And it was like a quick rush. Mm-hmm. Rebecca, when I think about wellness, I believe, I've always believed that you manage people different based on who they are. When I ran the Dallas Weekly, I was managing editor. I was a morning anchor news director at the radio station, and I was also running this black newspaper. And so they would always have a staff meeting 3 times a week, like at 10 o'clock. And so they would get mad because I wasn't at that meeting. And so one of the persons said, Mr. Washington, why don't we have to be here and Rollins have to be here? He said, have y'all ever driven by this paper at 10 o'clock at night? He said, I have. And Mr. Barnes' car's outside. He said, so he needs to go play golf and then come in here to work on the paper? He says, I don't need him in this meeting. I'm paying him to get this paper out the door. And and he said, y'all leave at 5 o'clock. And so so for me, I've always believed in flexibility and freedom. So I can't work in rigid environments. And so if I'm doing the job, allow me to do what I do and not have to be sort of 8 o'clock meeting, 9 o'clock meeting. Right. Most of my bosses understood that. And so for me, that's how I manage, how I get the best out of people. That's also for me a wellness thing, because I was at another paper where a publisher who was phenomenal. We had to be at the 8 o'clock meeting with our Franklin Covey planner, and I said, I gotta leave, because I knew I could not maximize my skill set in that sort of environment. And I think that's also part of the thing that we have to recognize. You have to manage people differently based upon what gets them to maximize their skill set. Yeah. And that's tied to wellness. Yeah. Speak to that.
I was going to say, is there a question?
Yes. I want you to speak to that, because do you do that? Do you look at how people move and flow differently, and you say, I can let this person do this, I can let this person do this, but this person over here needs a rigid deal? Do you manage that way in the workplace?
Yeah, I mean, I frame it a little bit differently than what you're saying. I mean, I think that people do best when they understand their roles and responsibilities and how it fits into a whole vision, and can be responsible for that set of things that fits into that vision, and the flexibility to then execute the way that they, with their skill set. I mean, you hire them to do that. And I think it is important that you lay out the culture of the organization and that people know what they're signing up for when they come in and that you hire the right people for that culture. So if you have a culture where you're, where you have to be rigid for whatever reason, then we wouldn't hire you, right? But if
Not gonna happen.
Yeah, so, but if there's a culture where you can be flexible and you know that, so I think it is incumbent upon really as a leader defining what your culture is and then empowering, hiring around that, ensuring that people know it as they come in, and then empowering people to do their roles and responsibilities.
Benny, Kelly brought up COVID, and the one thing that's interesting that COVID exposed, one, it exposed the amount of time people waste in traffic. It exposed the amount of time people were wasting in meetings. A lot of companies realized, why are we sending people around traveling all the time when they realize technology changes the whole game? But what's interesting is that when folks started saying, let's get back to normal, they wanted to reinstitute the old way of doing business, and the employees said, nah, we're good. And so this has led to a whole lot of friction in numerous companies because people realized they reprioritized things in their life, and they said, I don't want to actually go back to that old world. And this is causing massive disruption across countries because so many people place their mental and physical and emotional wellness above the job. And it's interesting how leaders they've had a struggle in responding to that. Yeah. How have you had to deal with that?
Well, we were looking at that before COVID took place. And when you think about the academic environment, we were struggling with trying to get faculty and others to do more asynchronous learning or learning online, those types of things. And then all of a sudden we had to immediately pivot. And we had about 2 weeks to do it.
And they had no choice.
And they had no choice. And we figured out that we can do it. And I think what our employees figure out is that they kind of like it. Okay, now, the quality of it is what we're working on, to make sure it's great quality teaching online, et cetera. So what we're finding, the question that we have to answer, particularly in higher education, is that we have to be competitive. And remote work or hybrid work is part of that benefit that individuals and employees are asking for. They're asking for it because things have changed all across the whole ecosystem of work. And so if they're going to come and work in this environment, they want to be able to do it. So we're right now assessing those jobs that we can do remote work, IT or some HR function, those type of things. And we have to balance a residential campus that we have built around facilities and spaces and all those types of things, and students who want to see people. So in addition to that, I think what COVID taught us is that there's no cookie cutter. We did think that everybody wanted online education, everybody wanted to go that route. What's happening now, students are coming back saying, we want some face-to-face engagement.
Yep.
We want, and employees are coming back saying, I'm kind of tired of being at home. I'm kind of tired of my spouse. I want a break from her, right? I'm tired of my dog.
They were like,
barking
please
outside.
call me back to work.
But they want the flexibility of recognizing that I can be productive, I can achieve this job, but I need some flexibility in that. And what that looks like, we're still figuring out.
See, Daniel, that's where I just think leaders are struggling. Like for me, like I've run 3 newspapers, and I literally would tell my folks, I don't ever need to see you. I said, I don't care what you do. As long as that story is in that at 4 p.m., you could do whatever you want. And they would look at me like I was crazy, and I was dead serious, because that's how I was. I said, now, at 4:01, if I don't see that story, we got a problem. And there were some people who they could not adjust to that level of freedom. But what I was just simply letting them know is that I'm not going to be haranguing you. I hired you to do this, and this is how I operate. And so, boom, go out and do whatever you want to do, long as your work gets done. And I think where leaders are really sort of stuck right now is they're having to force to change how they lead, because literally folks are leaving jobs saying, I don't want to return to that because I now realize that was not healthy. Go.
So thank you. So You heard me
farm,
say exactly.
till that soil.
Right.
I done dropped the seed, now work the land.
No, thank you, Roland. So that is a very powerful point. And actually, as you were talking, I was thinking back about our experiences. You know, I think a lot of us have missed, when you were asking Benny the first question, they've missed the point that a lot of folks were, you know, suffering from mental health crises, right? From the loneliness, from they lost loved ones. A lot of us lost loved ones to COVID-19. And they recognize, wait a second, you know what, there's more to life than just working, right? But what can we do to find an environment that will help us thrive? A lot of us weren't thriving, we're just surviving, we're trying to.
Yep.
And so I think what we saw from a lot of employers is that tension, right? They didn't quite get and they didn't appreciate. And I think a lot of corporations still don't get it. A lot of leaders, managers don't understand how mental health affects our systemic health. They don't really appreciate it, they don't value it. And you see that as a result damaging, I think, some of their decisions in the workplace, and they're hurting their employees. And I work with a lot of young people who are in that age that we've been talking about, who've been suffering from loneliness, who have been craving an environment where they are empowered. They're able to, you know, work on their own, they're able to do it. Don't micromanage me, I'll get it done. I'm the same way. I don't like when people do that to me either. So I think your point is a valid one. We do need to think about what is that root cause that is driving a lot of these different needs and wants from employees. And I think if we pinpoint that and we understand the implications and we address them, then you will be able to create the different options that will help folks thrive in the company. So to your point, Benny, about that.
I remember when I was a student at Texas A&M, it was an unbelievably gorgeous day. I mean, it was gorgeous. And I've been playing golf since I took it as my PE at A&M. So when it's a gorgeous day, I go, man, it's a golf day. And I remember we were in class, and I said to the professor, I said, hey, man, we need to have class outside. He was like, excuse me? I said, listen, we all looking out the damn window anyway. I said, so why don't we have this class outside? And he was like, and the rest of the class was like, that's a good idea. And we eventually had class outside. There have been times when I literally have said to my whole team, all right, we're gonna run a repeat show, we're going to Topgolf. Like I literally, and some people kind of like, and I said, they thought, I said, no, this is not a day off. You actually are coming out there. But I wanted them to understand that one is team building, but it was also, you can still have fun. And some of them were thrown off by it because they didn't quite understand it. Like, okay, well, we really going hit some golf balls? And then we did bowling once as well. And I do that because, again, to break up the monotony. Have any of you done that where you're like, okay, we about to change this up today. And they had no idea you were about to do something, but you just sense that your people needed something different that day.
Well, one of the challenges for us is that we're virtual. We always have been for 10 years. And so you're framing it as an opportunity, like this virtual world. But I do think it's like you were talking about. It has some upsides for a lot of people, and it has challenges. We just had a team retreat. We did duck pin bowling tournament. So it wasn't spontaneous like you're talking about. But, you know, it was like, how do we integrate like that, getting to know each other and all of those other things. The one thing in that team retreat that I did do spontaneously is kind of towards the end, we were talking about validation and how hard it is to get validation when you're at your desk behind a screen in your home, you know, and you're interacting with your colleagues in different ways, and some people need more of that connectivity. And so kind of at the end, I said, well, why don't we each share something that we're proud that we did over the past 2 weeks? You know, so that gave, it was not as like fun, spontaneous, but it was that moment where I saw people really need to be talking about what they're proud of, and also other people need to be hearing that. And so that kind of validation was important.
Anybody?
Yeah, definitely done that at times. I've brought masseuses into the office just on a random day or just after a long, you know, period of a lot of work. Have done, I think Uber or some on-demand service should have like puppies that you could bring to the office when people seem to just need a lift, like something just outside the box, right? And then, or just sending people home.
Yeah,
or going
Kayla, can you bring about 8 puppies to the office
well, who
for about 3 hours?
Yes. How could that not change your mood in your day if you had puppies, right? And so just everybody stop what you're doing, All right, so and in a prior life, everybody at Denny's going, she hasn't done this here yet.
Where's
I
my
will,
coffee?
I promise. But in a prior life, we actually would literally get up and take walks around restaurants. When we were in doing restaurant visits, would say, there's no reason we have to be sitting in here, kind of like what you did. Let's go walk around the parking lot. Let's walk next door. Let's walk to whatever is next door and have a cup of coffee there and come back. The meetings, then teams started to have their meetings outside, their alley rallies. A shift meeting is what the managers do right before the shift starts. And they started doing them outside, and they started walking. And so we started to talk about all the elements of well-being and really incorporate it into what we did. We actually had guided meditation at a general manager conference with 1,000 general managers. They had to sit on the floor. So try and get so general managers, the restaurant business I've talked about, it's really hard. Sit down, crisscross applesauce, and then be quiet for 5 minutes. It was next to impossible. So it was.
Y'all see the happy kid like.
It was the noisiest.
She's like, sit down.
It was that they were like, it was the noisiest 5 minutes of meditation I've ever witnessed. Because they couldn't still their minds.
You know where you
right?
messed up? They didn't do that one leg.
I did. Yeah, but so there were people that didn't totally get it, and then there were people that came up in tears and said, meditation saved me, helped me, guided me through tough times, right? So it made it worth it. It was bold to try and do it because a lot of them did think it was crazy.
But actually, what you did then is really what emerging research is telling us now. Actually, I was reading an article in preparation for this conversation where it was talking about professors and instructors doing more classes outside and how important it is around wellness and mental health and just reinvigorating student learning and student creativity and innovation. So I do believe that changing the path up is different, is important. And when we talk about this remote work and this virtual, it's not just about doing virtual work and people wanting to do things differently. I think people are coming back with an increase in mental health awareness. In Daniel's presentation, he talked about the stigma of mental health. I think that stigma is moving away, especially with COVID, because the effects of it was so pronounced. And so people are asking, or even self-identifying, saying, you know what, this is not worth my mental health. Exactly. There's more to life than coming back and forth to work. So I think work has to meet that particular new identity to say, you're right, there is more to living than coming to work. You know, when we were affected by COVID, my wife and I often talk about, and I was talking about this early on, is that we had no less than 28 people in our circle to pass away from COVID. 28.
Yep.
Between immediate family, best friends, all this kind of stuff. And so you begin to ask those new questions about life.
That's right.
And balance. And yes, I love my work and I love my family. I love my work and I love my ability to relax. I love my work and I want to travel a little more and those types of things. So I think it's forcing us to do some things different because our mental health and our survival is at stake. And people are just not allowing themselves to buy into, you got to work 60 hours a week if you're going to promote up.
Yeah, you can actually have fun and live.
That's right.
So I was telling the story earlier. So Vanessa Gilmore is federal. She's now retired federal judge, and so she's always traveling. So she and I were playing golf in Houston, and I said, Vanessa, you always going somewhere. She says, listen. She said, I am not about to be sitting on that bench all day, every day. So she tells me a story. There was a judge in Houston. He's a federal judge for 30 years. And he did not go on a vacation with his wife for 30 years. He was always, his docket was full, all these different cases. So finally they plan a cruise. So they're supposed to leave on a Saturday. He dies Friday. Dies Friday. She says, Roland, let me tell you what happened on Monday. She said, Monday, we go into our conference. The chief judge, there's a moment of silence, and distributes his dockets. All the cases he had, you, she said, and the meeting went on. She said, so here he was, so fixated on his caseload, all his docket is so full, and she said, and in 3 minutes, his entire docket was distributed to all the rest of the judges. She says, I will get on a damn plane in a heartbeat. She said, because the cases are not going anywhere. And I think what COVID exposed, not just for workers, but for leaders. I know a pastor in D.C. who literally said,
if I do not take this sabbatical, I am leaving this church. He stood up and he said, I am completely empty. I cannot preach another sermon for y'all. And if I don't leave right now, and he literally took a sabbatical for 6 months. I know some of them taken for a year. So leaders even realized that they were on this treadmill and they were driving themselves crazy because they were just so fixated on work. For each of you as leaders, was there something that even in that period where you said, I have to change this?
Well,
you were shaking your head.
Yeah, well, Daniel and I were talking a little bit about this last night. Like, it was fascinating. You have your life before COVID, then you had COVID, which shifted up a bunch of things. And I swore I was going to have blocks of time, you know, in my new life that I would dedicate, you know, to self-care and things like that. And then you're back to the same, you know, traveling schedule and all that. But what I have done that's been extremely helpful is I integrate it wherever I can. Instead of thinking about I need 2 hours. It's I need 10. Like today on the way back to the airport,
right.
I couldn't get a flight till 5:40, so I'm taking a hike on the way back to the airport because I like nature. So it's like just figuring out how to kind of
there you go.
But the other thing I wanted to bring into the conversation, if you don't mind, is also just, you mentioned your son already. My daughter has serious mental health and addiction issues. One of my son, the bonus kid, has some issues. And so how to figure out how to caretake for yourself too in the context of not only your work life, but your family life. And, you know, Daniel's story this morning, you don't know when it's going to come. Right. You know, I could walk off stage, I'm exhausted, I traveled 3 times this week, and I could get the phone call that I then have to be present for. So how do you like practice that presence so that you can have it at the times where it's needed by your network?
So you said, I thought I did not have a lot of time, and you just described, fine, later flight, I'm gonna go hiking. So before, what would you have done in those 2, 3, 4 hours? What would you have done?
It probably would have worked. Yeah, I would have opened my laptop and finished my stuff. I'll still work on the plane today, you know. So you still,
right?
I still work 60 hours a week.
But you're creating that. So who was? So where is she? Is it Regina who was with me in the green room? She pinned me. So I have a travel massager. I have Hyper Ice. Yeah. I got 3 of them. One in my gym at home, one in my golf bag. One kid's in my backpack. So I took it out before I came out. She's like, oh my God, I need one of those. I don't have time for a massage. I'm like, actually you do. Yeah. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, actually you do. Yeah. You just need to schedule it. Yeah. And that's the other thing, forcing people to have to schedule it. Again, for the 3 of you, was there one thing that even you realized coming out of COVID that you had to start doing differently for you?
Yes. So going back to the soil analogy, right? Going back to my roots.
What, you went to go plant some stuff?
Yeah, so you know the gangster gardener out of LA? Any of you all have heard of his? He did a master class, right? And it inspired me as I was watching this. I said, you know, I got to get back to my roots because that's when I feel, you know, the most healthy. When I'm in nature, when I'm gardening. And I wanted to garden things that I hadn't typically gardened before. So it helped me to turn what had been a hobby back into a hobby. I had lost sight of that for years.
Where's she at?
I love okra, actually I do, and longevity spinach,
I don't forget
tropical spinach, all that stuff. So yeah, just incorporating that into my routine. And let's say, and I do travel a lot, but I also work remotely too. I'm able to go during the lunch break, get my hands dirty, go and plant, go and reap some of the vegetables and the fruits that
so if you got 30, 45 an hour, boom,
you got it. And it's done wonders for my mental health. Yep.
So I started in COVID doing something different, something so incredibly simple, but got into a routine because I wasn't traveling all the time of working out more. But I used to, prior to COVID, just roll out of bed in enough time to shower, grab a cup of coffee, and walk out the door.
Right.
And I now probably am up and working out and thinking and just having some time for probably 3.5 hours before I actually might even walk in the office. Yep. And I started that in COVID and just said, there's no reason I can't get up and work out. My gym was in my garage, converted. Some yoga too, that's right, yep. And so I changed that and I really work hard to keep that up.
Which one of your legs is stronger, left or the right?
The left is
okay,
stronger.
all right, just checking.
Well, I think it's, for me, you know, when you asked the question of the other panel,
say something interesting about ourselves. And it took us, we had a conference to figure that out, right?
That makes no sense
we
to
still
me.
But-
Y'all overthought that thing.
Okay, but that's it.
Right. Y'all overthought it.
That's it. When you talk to leaders, we're always thinking about doing.
Yes.
I think what happened.
Well, y'all were trying to find the perfect,
no, we were just trying to find something interesting. It wasn't that difficult, but it was
ain't
for
none
us.
of y'all interested. Oh my God, go ahead.
But
Gotcha.
think about it. But this happened before COVID, really. Because I used to set a list of things to do, and I would have what I'm going to do. So I'm going to learn to play the guitar. I'm going to learn to do this. And I would put that on my list, and I'd check it off. But it really wasn't changing my behavior. What happened to me right before COVID, and it really took me working with an executive coach to help me to figure this out, is to change my thinking.
Yep.
This job that I have at USC Upstate is the very best job I've ever had, and I'm having fun doing it. I really am. And I don't feel the pressure to be consumed with it 24 hours a day. I feel good about stopping away, but it took me getting out of a place of resentment of work and learning to accept life's reality. Death, people, problems. You just accept that.
They ain't going anywhere.
Now, I'm not going to live there and overly think that now.
Right.
I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to delegate it out. Chris, I know how to delegate very well, right, Keisha? I'm going to delegate it out if it needs to be done. I'm not going to own it all.
Hey, look, I'm leaving for a couple hours. Y'all take care of that over there.
That's what's happened to me that took me through COVID to do things differently, to spend more time with my wife, to vary the time with my kid, to learn how to put my phone down and be present sometimes, is not feeling that I have to do it all. And it was a thinking thing. And I'm still learning every day, but I'm having fun, and I don't have to have a hobby.
Yep.
I don't have to do that.
See, for me, I'm an avid golfer. I've been playing 35 years. And I prefer to play 18. I hate playing 9 holes. But also, I want to start walking more. But when you're pushing and pulling the cart, it is not a fun experience. So there's one company that came out with a motorized unit that converts your pull cart into a motorized cart. So I got it, and so that's remote control. It's much easier. And so now I'll play. If I got 2 hours, boom, I'll go walk 9, then head to the office. And it was interesting because I raised 6 of my nieces. And so the six nieces from 3 different sisters at different times. And at one time, I had all 6 at one time. And so when the twins, when they went back to Texas, they were 18, so they're now in college, I sat there and I said, wait a minute, for the oldest niece is 25. So for the last 20 years, I've literally spent probably close to $1 million on all of them for all kind of different stuff. So I was sitting there deciding, okay, do I want to join a country club? Do I want to play golf? And I was like, this club. I went, what the hell, I'm joining both. And it literally was like, it was a decision where I said, I'm doing this for me. I don't care about anybody else because I know what my outlet is and what allows me to be away. I can do my thing and stay sane because everything is so busy. And somebody said, wait a minute, you joined both? I said, yes, because I didn't feel like picking. I said, I didn't want to have to sit here. I said, what the hell, I'll join both. But I was making decisions, and it was fine. I did what I was supposed to do as a godfather, but there reaches a point where, what you said, you're at a certain age, and you're like, look, will I be able to do this 20 years from now? And so a lot of people come to me, man, why are you always dancing? Because my legs work. Why am I not going to dance? Because I've always said there may be a day when I can't dance. Yeah. And I don't want to be at that day going, dang, I wish I had danced when I could. And I think a lot of people, and this is absolutely tied to wellness at work, because if I don't have that, I am not productive in what I do at work. That absolutely is a requirement. And so is there a thing for you that you absolutely must do in your personal life in order to be effective here? That is I don't care what it is, I have to do this to maintain a sense of self for me.
I'm going to dodge your question.
Now we know it's your one leg stand.
Yeah, one leg stand. Well, I'm going to dodge your question a little bit because I think there's like all these things that we can do to talk about wellness, but there's so many structural issues that need to happen, like that also affect
Like what?
how, well, for instance, access to mental health services and the insurance to actually cover that. Like those are the things the Kennedy Forum works on. You know, so wellness is obviously an undergirding, like important part of it.
So here's why I'm not going to let you dodge it.
Yep.
Because see, so here's what you just done. You've now gone back to how leaders think. So here's why I'm asking that question. Because I want you to think of something for the person who's listening that doesn't require any structure, a call meeting or whatever, to get people to understand that there are basic things that we can do, even if it's a walk, even if it's that, because I totally get your point. What I'm saying, but what happens a lot of times is people who are watching, they don't realize it's not hard if we simplify the notion of I do this to be well and I can be more productive at work. So is there something for you in your life? Is there something in your life that you say to your family, to everybody, I have to do this in order for me to be who I am?
It's exercising for me.
And what is the exercise?
I do like an hour-long kind of cross-training.
How many times a week?
3, and then I will hike or run or something else.
And if you go through a week and you do it one time, are you sort of like?
It feels weird.
And do you make it clear to kids, spouse, everyone, listen, I got to go do this. Y'all can wait.
Yep. Or job.
No, seriously. Do you do that where you say, I have to do this or I cannot be the leader I'm supposed to be?
Yes, I have to have unproductive time. I got to have some time to myself, whether I'm meditating or just being it doesn't matter.
No, hold on. So I want you to unpack it. You said unproductive time.
Well,
it's not unproductive time.
I knew he was going to go there.
Yeah, you do that.
I knew that.
You did.
He was going to catch that.
I have to have my
There
time.
you go. No.
Well, that's
no. She just said it. Unstructured time.
Yes, I have to have unstructured
It's
time.
just whatever hell I feel like
I
doing.
have to have unstructured time. I got to have that. When I need it, and it has to be consistent. So there are times.
Is your assistant here?
No, but she's looking on
And
online.
you made it, but you made it perfectly clear to her. Listen, if you see that I'm going, I gotta have this time.
Yeah.
And you made that clear to her.
Yeah, she knows that.
It's similar. Working out, getting up early enough to have productive, unstructured time is important. If I'm coming off a week of travel, being in front of and having to either speak or just being on, which happens a lot, I have to have quiet. Like I'm an extrovert, but then I won't talk for hours, maybe a day. I mean,
Got it.
I just won't. And my family will know that is just what I need to do.
Daniel?
Yeah, same thing. Well, first, sleep. I need to have 7 hours of sleep if I'm going to be, fresh and awake for the next morning and to be good and kind to my kids and my wife. So 7 hours of sleep. And then I'd also say, as an introvert, that's interesting, you're an extrovert, I'm an introvert, I need time. After an event like this, I just need time for myself to unwind, right? Yeah. And to, what do you call it? Compress.
Unwind.
Don't call it unproductive.
Hold up.
Right, I'm not using that word. I learned my lesson. Right. So I need that me time to rejuvenate.
Yep. Yeah.
And then once I get filled back up, then I feel good again.
So the reason I wanted to freeze on that point is because what often happens is a lot of people, what we do is we think, okay, in order to do this here, it's going to cost this, it's going to cost this, it's going to cost this. And what I try to do is to get people to understand, no. There are things that you can do that actually don't cost anything. You just actually have to do it. Yeah. And so if we're talking about, again, wellness, mindfulness, it's trying to break it down as simple as possible. And when someone goes, it never dawned on me, I could just take a walk. Yeah. Like, we sit here and go, oh no, I want to start working out, so I need the equipment, I got to have machines, whatever. Yeah. And it's kind of like, actually, you can just take a walk. And that's the thing for me. So I do this all. I do this all the time. So this is a video here. Y'all gonna really crack up laughing. So when I travel with my own LED lights and candles. Now, because I do my show a lot from the road, we use the lights because board hotel room got white walls. Well, you throw some color changes up. But here's why I do this. Because when people are grabbing at me. I'm taking selfies for hours. People are pitching stories or whatever. And so I create a serene place, which is my hotel room, which makes it so much easier for me. So when I walk out, the moment I walk out of my hotel room, I'm on. I'm meeting somebody in the hallway, in the elevator. Oh my God, you're Roland Martin, whatever. So I create that space, and I posted that video on my social media, and folks, people hit me. They were like, "Wait a minute." I was like, "Yep, that's a $25 light, and those are candles." And they said, "It never dawned on me that, wait a minute, that's just," I said, "Yes, it goes in the bag. It's real simple." And so I create that wherever I go, because there are sometimes when people are grabbing so much, I literally don't want to talk to people, because it can be 4 or 6 hours of intense engagement. And all of these people, they said, "Is that simple?" And that was my whole point. Simplifying this so the person who's watching or listening goes, "This is not hard."
Right.
You just have to actually just do it and just to find that one thing.
Right. I love what you're saying. And because it does have to be simple, and as leaders, people have to see that you're trying to not only do those things for yourself, that whole, if you don't put the oxygen mask on yourself first, you can't help anybody else. But by giving those kind of examples, there'll be somebody that will start doing that. I was at a session with women leaders, and I love sleep. Love sleep. So when I say I get up at 5,
she's like, "Great idea."
9:30. I mean, I'm done and starting. I want to get my sleep for the night. And there was a question about wellness, well-being, and the question was tied to sleep and who gets 7 to 8 hours a night. And I raised my hand, and it was the general manager, came up and said, "If you can sleep, I can sleep." I went, "Okay, I'm not sure. I mean, I get what she was saying, but." It was a huge breakthrough epiphany moment for her, because I said I sleep 7 to 8 hours.
It was interesting. I was at a reception, and so we're talking. It was a married couple, and they were going on vacation. And she's like, "Oh, we're going on vacation. Oh my God, my husband's bringing his golf clubs." And I was like, "I'm sorry, what's the problem?" And so she's like, "But it's vacation. He's going to be golfing." I was like, "I'm still trying to understand what's the problem." So I said, "I'm just curious. What time are you going to wake up when you go on vacation?" She's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "What time are you going to wake up?" She says, "Well, I got to get up now at 6, so probably 8:30. I said, "Okay, all right. Let's say he goes to play 18 holes in the morning, 7, 8 o'clock. He's back at 1. So what time are you going to go to sleep?" She's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "What time are you going to go to sleep?" "Well, vacation, I can go to sleep late." She was like, "So maybe midnight." I said, "Got it. So you got your 8 hours." I said, "So he comes back at 1. What are you doing the next 11 hours? She's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "It's 11 hours left. Right. What are you doing?" And she's like, "Well, what if I want to go on an excursion in the morning?" I said, "He can play in the afternoon." I said, "It's 5 hours. And I said, let me explain what's about to happen. You gonna get pissed off, and he gonna leave his clubs at home. So now he going on vacation pissed. Now he's pissed on vacation. Now you gonna get pissed because he's pissed. So now gonna be 2 pissed off people on vacation." I said, "When you literally can't tell me what you're gonna do for 11 hours." Yeah. And she just then looked at me. She was not happy with me at that point. My wife was cracking up laughing because she knew where I was going. I said, "You know what I think the problem is? You don't know how to be alone. You don't have something to do yourself." She was not happy with this conversation, Doc. But what I said, "What do you want to do to enjoy it?" She's like, "I'm not understanding." I said, "Vacation does not mean we're on vacation. It means you on vacation, I'm on vacation. We just happen to be going together. What do you do?" She had nothing that she wanted to do. I said, so you want to deny what he likes. And I said, you might want to find something that you want to do so both of y'all are happy. And a lot of people just didn't understand that because when I forced her to count the hours, that's when it really hit her.
Well, I thought you were going to go a slightly different direction, which was focus, like what you're focused on. You're focused on the time that you're away from each other instead of on the time that you're with each other. Like, I thought about that when my daughter was really young. She'd throw these big temper tantrums. They would last like 2 hours. But then somehow it would take the whole day. You know, there's emotion, there's like afterwards, she would be fine, and we would still be kind of reeling from all the stuff that went on. And so I started to think about that, like focusing on the other thing, right? That was 2 hours of 18 waking hours or whatever it is. And
She
that,
threw a 2-hour temper tantrum?
Yeah, oh, yeah. Well, that's what she has serious mental illness now.
There you
It
go.
started back then, so. This is
All
not
I
a
know
new thing.
is that's like in about 3 minutes, and I would have felt some leather. But I'm just, I'm
She's determined. That's the good news.
But I do think, too, in addition to that, is that I think a lot of us are mindset, what is vacation anyway? What is it? People who, vacation varies for every individual.
Right.
And you enjoy it when you're comfortable with that mindset. You and your partner enjoy it. There are things you may do together. There are things you may do individually. Somebody may get up for me, I get up at 5 o'clock every morning. So staying in bed till 8 o'clock is a long time. 10 o'clock, my body is aching. Well, I don't even know. 10 o'clock, we started having issues. I'm tired of seeing
10 p.m.?
No, a.m.
Oh.
A.m. I'm having an issue. If
Don't
I'm
wake
laying in
up at
bed at
10:30,
9, 10
y'all.
o'clock, I'm like, okay, something's going on. My body's aching. So it started working against me. I'm getting anxious and all that kind of stuff. If I don't get up at 8 at the latest, but that's me. That's what I enjoy. That's what's relaxing me.
But that's my whole point.
Yeah.
So what I'm getting at, when we talk about, again, this idea of wellness and work, you have to find something that you enjoy. Okay? If you love hike, I ain't hiking. And I'll be like, baby, have a great time. Take some videos and some photos, but I ain't going with you. And so the whole point is, I want you to enjoy that thing that you really enjoy, and I don't want to deny you. That is the thing that I think so many people don't arrive at, that they haven't figured out what's my thing, what's my escape, what's the one thing that my family can't mess with, my spouse can't mess with, work can't mess with, that allows me to maintain my balance of mind, body, and spirit, to then be an effective wife, husband, parent, worker. And I think that's where a lot of people are struggling. They haven't figured out what their thing is. And I'm saying your thing doesn't mean it costs something. Because you can do vacation, but you still got to come home. So what's your thing at home? And so, last question for you before I go, the question for the panel, and put up the questions that were online as well. What are you going to do this Monday, after this, to incorporate something that you learned here? Daniel, you first.
So I think we're actually going into strategic planning, and you've caused me to really think about, on Tuesday we're going into strategic planning, so I'm thinking about how maybe on Monday I might incorporate elements of what we've been talking about today with the team, and just do sort of this.
Do you take your team to farm with you? No, I'm just curious.
No, not yet. Not yet. I would love to, though. But a lot of people don't
Come
share
on,
that
y'all,
passion.
we're going to grow.
I talk about chickens, my chickens, and vaccinating. They don't seem interested.
I'm just
so
letting you know, Daniel. If I work
maybe
with y'all,
one
like,
person on the
Daniel,
team.
I'm going to see you later. I'm going to go ahead.
Yeah, so I think there'll be an opportunity for us to incorporate that, to sort of level set and understand where people are, in terms of their mental health journeys and experiences. So I'd love to be able to incorporate that into our strategic plan.
So I was thinking about my Monday. I have to get up for 3:30 a.m. for a flight. So I'm like, oh, it's a tough one. What am I going to do that I learned today?
Woo!
I'll get up at 3 to have some spate now.
At 3:15, you're going to be like, if Kelly was here, you said left leg, right?
Yes. This is what she would do. It's a good question. I'm not sure I have a good answer.
I'm going to come back to you.
Come back to me.
I think it's just making sure I'm conscious of modeling for my colleagues and my workforce how to help take care of themselves by taking care of myself.
I mean, similar, I think this certainly makes me want to go faster on some of the things we're going to bring to all of our employees. So having done this today and knowing the power of just some of these things that we're discussing is to just go faster.
All right, Kelly, you already read the question. Kelly, you're a CEO, mother, and wife. How do you balance personal wellness and mental health with your schedule? I think you already answered that.
Yeah, it kind of did. It's hard. It's hard. You know, you said, what's the one thing that if it doesn't happen? If I travel too much and eat out too much and don't eat clean for too many days in a row, I don't operate and function as well. So it's difficult, but I've always prioritized time with my family. This is a company where we can do that. There are some where you can't. And so I know I could probably do a lot of things, but it's important that it is prioritized, and it is here.
How can more organizations and companies join Denny's in talking about mental health, and how do we start that conversation? Who wants that?
Well, I think it's already started. I think, particularly in higher education, several CEOs, about 355 American Council on Education did a report, did a survey, and the 5 things that were the most important to us were our mental health of our students, the mental health of our staff and faculty, then our financial enrollment, and D&I. Those were the 5 things in that order. And so I think we start that conversation. We've already started. We've doubled our mental health services on campus. We are networking with more organizations to do more mental health, and our students are really recognizing their needs. And so teaching our faculty how to help students and how to help themselves to be vulnerable to get help.
I think the conversation, first of all, the conversation is past started. Yeah. It's now actually plans, because what caused it, when folks didn't come back. Yeah. The reality, this whole idea of with Great Resignation, is that what it was called? Yes. People kind of like joking, yeah, but it really hit a lot of people when people were walking away from well-paying jobs, and they said, I do not want to go back to that. Exactly. And a lot of companies thought, oh, we can just replace those folks, not realizing that the other folks who left do not want to come work in your environment, and you don't have those different things. And that's, I think, is forcing, it's forcing people to go, we have to now, it's not a choice, we have to.
And I was just going to say, I think the next generation, too, or maybe 2 below me, you know, my kids, they have no problem talking about it. They bring their issues to employers. That's right. You know, my son has a full-time job, and he relapsed into self-harm a couple weeks ago, and he went and told his employer right away. And I was like, wow, that's really fascinating. Why did you do that? But it was fascinating to me that he felt comfortable, and they put him on FMLA, actually, which was a fascinating sequence of events. But I would have never thought, if I had an issue, to go straight to my employer.
Because we were raised, you don't tell nobody.
No.
Right, exactly.
So we're going to have to, as employers, we're also going to have to be very thoughtful about the work environment that we're creating and how we're kind of laying the table for this next generation of workers as they're entering that.
Right. The one, I would say the one thing, I don't struggle with it because I just don't. But it is an issue. One of you mentioned earlier, I think you mentioned validation. Yep. And I've worked when I was at TV One, even now. You know, there are some people, they absolutely need to be validated. And I had an executive producer, and with a conversation, I said, "Listen, you can handle that part, because for me, my whole deal was, let me be clear, you're getting paid to actually do a job. I don't praise you for what you get paid to do. When I drop praise is when you go above and beyond. I'm not, thank you for bringing me the script on time. That's kind of what you're supposed to do." Right. And so we had this, there was some friction because I had some of my folks on the staff, they were upset because I wasn't reading the script that they were writing. And they were like, really, why is he not asking the questions that we wrote? And so I had to walk it through. I said, let me explain something to you. I said, did you turn the script on time? Yes. Did you write the questions? Yes. Did you satisfy your requirements? Yes. So I need you to understand, when that light comes on, that's when I go to work. It's not a requirement for me to read your script. So I need you to understand what I do is totally different from what you do. They felt, they were like, well, but I wrote that. I'm like, I know you wrote it, but I don't have to read it. Because when I'm live on TV, I'm in the moment.
Right.
The conversation is driving it, not what you wrote. So when I was at CNN, I hated when they would go, we have to end it there. And I'm like, no, it was a great conversation. I would literally go, hey, kill that next segment because this conversation is too good, and we're going to continue. Because I had the freedom to do so. And it was a struggle for them because they were thinking, I like their work. I was like, no. But what I'm doing, I said, because here's the deal. When something happens, no one knows any of you. They're tweeting me. And they just had to understand that you're valued, but once we hit, it's a whole different ballgame. And that's a struggle for some people because they think their work is not being used, but they didn't understand really that where I am, the job is totally different when light comes on. And that validation piece, I think, is a huge thing, a part of this whole mental idea in the workplace, because there are a lot of people, and I'm not criticizing millennials or Gen Z, but many of them need it desperately. And for a lot of us, I'm going, listen, it's just the work. So last question I would love for you to answer, because I definitely want to come back to that. How do you deal with people who really, 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 really need to be validated? Because they tie it to their mental wellness and being appreciated in the workplace.
Well, I'll go first. I actually
Kelly,
have no problems.
I'm with you. Trust me. We right there. I got you. Go ahead, Daniel.
Well, I actually remember when I was on your show a few times that you did that. Oh, we're gonna keep going another segment.
And they were in this control. What is he doing?
Yes,
I got this. Don't worry
that.
about it.
But when I know that someone needs that validation, I have no problem giving it, and so I just give it. I give it whenever I remember. I'll say thank you. I send an email. I may call and just say thank you. You are seen. You are valued. Right? You're not just tolerated. So for those folks,
I might have to hire a chief validation officer.
But I think that's important.
That's just seriously for me. I just know I don't do that.
Yeah.
I just
Well, yeah.
if it's just that basic. But go ahead.
But you come to learn that you don't want to overthink it. You know, you have HR offices, you have all of these things where we do employee reward and recognition because we know that's important.
Yes.
So there are folks who are motivated more by it.
Yes.
So we talk about encourage people to bring their whole selves to work. We have all this rhetoric. The question is, are we prepared to embrace the rhetoric that we put out there? So if I want you to bring your whole self to work and your whole self requires validation, then I got to figure out how to validate that. Now, it may not look like, oh, great job every 5 minutes, but there are ways to validate people and validate folks who need it, whether they need it or not, but creating that. And it's a different shift. You know, just as
it's a mind shift, yes.
It's a mind shift, it's a leadership shift, it's a behavior shift, all of that is just different, and you have to embrace it because the workforce is different.
I just think it's an interesting...
Since you brought it up earlier.
Yeah, well, I just think it's an interesting concept, and I did use the word, but like, I think we all need validation in some way, shape, or form.
It just looks different.
Yeah, it looks different. You're a huge public figure. You can't tell me you don't like validation. Your life would be totally different if you weren't like...
My validation is
right, it may be
paid.
through self, but it's through...
I told bosses, hey, I can't deposit you the good job. I'm just being straight. Hey, I'm just being straight up. They're like, Roland, great job. Appreciate that. Raise. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So
I go.
I guess I kind of circle back to my original comments, which was, it is about meeting people where they are, and there's some people that are not going to work in your environment too. You know, like there's people that could not work for you.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's okay. They can.
And I've actually told some people, you
and
actually can't work here.
And I do think that's important, right? Because like part of our job as leaders is to ensure that that our employees are content and engaged and understand what their roles are. And that may not be. I mean, I've run relatively small organizations. It may not be at my organization, either through a growth trajectory or because the culture's not right or whatever that is. So I was kind of like, when I heard it, I was like, well, you figure out a different place for them to be if you can't validate them in the way that they need to be, and you help them get there.
Yeah,
Like,
and I've actually told some people, it's time for you to go.
Yeah.
No, but seriously. 'cause
I
it's-
wouldn't say it exactly
Well,
like
I mean,
that, but we're a little
no, reason. Like I literally, y'all, I see the time. I got it, y'all. Like seriously, there was a young man. He was 26 years old. He worked at the black newspaper for 3 years. I gave him his evaluation. Then I said, all right, you got 60 days to find your new job. I'm going to fire you. He started crying. I said, you're 26.
Right.
You're trying to retire. At a black newspaper, you're making $21,000. I said, Randy, it's time for you to go. And so he interviews, the managing editor calls me, and so I'm telling her how he is. She's like, okay, I'm confused. Why, if he's all this, why are you telling him to leave? I said, I'm sorry, how long have you been in your job? I said, you are not a good leader if you've never told somebody it's time for you to go. You learn everything you could here. And she was like, what the hell? I didn't expect this here. But I've literally had to tell some people that it's time for you to go. You have to grow somewhere else, or we are moving at a speed that you're not. It's just the nature of the business. And a lot of people won't do that. I'm very upfront with people. I told my own niece that you can't work for me because you can't operate in the speed in this environment, in television environment. You have to go work somewhere else. And she got a new job. She didn't tell. She wouldn't tell me. She says he's going to talk me out of it. I was like, no, I was not. But I needed her to understand to be effective here. It requires this. Final comment.
Final comment, figure out what it takes for them to be seen. Right, so you said that. And I think that as a leader is ultimately what you're supposed to do, is find a way to see. Say, I see you.
And folks, we see you. And the panel is done. Give it up for our panel. And so we're taking a small break, and then we will come right back. Folks, thank you so very much. I was glad to be here. Glad to see all of you here. I'll be sticking around for a little bit, but I have a 2:48 flight out of Charlotte. So brother will be on the road. So thanks so much. I appreciate it. Go ahead. April's about to talk.
Hello, everyone. The panelists, thank you so much. It was wonderful. You can exit the stage. I know we got some more that's happening. Thank you. I want to take a moment to say thank you to our incredible and wonderful, unpredictable moderator, Roland Martin, okay? Roland, thank you for engaging our panelists today in a thoughtful and dynamic dialogue. I think your keen ability to getting everyone to open up, right? We open up exercising out there. I mean, I'm glad he didn't call my name.
Are you reading this script?
No,
Okay, I'm just checking.
Okay. You see,
I'm just messing with you.
unpredictable? No. I think, Roland, it's important for everyone to know that it's all about mental health and wellness, right? It's not all stuffy, like you said, reading the script and that's me. I'm all about in order. But I'm telling you, he made it fun, engaging, right? And open up. So this is a little small token of our appreciation for you coming to Sparkle City and also...
We got some 9-grain pancakes.
But he did have our pancake blueberry he wanted this morning from our Denny's Mobile Relief Diner who was here on campus. So thank you, my friend.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Travels.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so the next thing, we're not finished yet, so I'm excited about this. I want to introduce to you our Denny's Vice President of Human Resources and our Chief Learning Officer, Fasika Maleku Peterson.
Thank you, April. That's my shero right there. What a day, right? What a day. It has been so interesting to watch the conversations that have taken place. Who knew when we talked about something so dynamic that affected so many, that we could laugh, that we could cry, that we could hear stories of family members, and still realize that work is not done and that we have the solution. So let me share a little bit about how we think about this at Denny's and what we're doing and what keeps us up at night and how we're moving forward. We do think that this is a defining moment for us. right? I hear everyone saying that. I hear lots of great stuff that people are doing, whether it's the universities or so on. But for us, and this was so, I was just talking to April about this, this was so instrumental for me to understand the gravity of the situation. 1 billion people, right? And when you think, as I'm looking at our CFO, when you think about how that impacts, not just lives lost or lives hurt, when you think about that, how that impacts the world, 2010, $2.5 trillion. And that's just gonna continue. That's just gonna continue. And for us, it hits home. For us, it hits home in the restaurant industry. Let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about why. Because 1 in 3 of our team members who work for us in the restaurant industry, who work for Denny's right now, those pancakes that you tasted today, 1 in 3 have symptoms of depression. 70% say that they are burnt out. I mean, Roland was just talking about the Great Resignation. And here's what's interesting. Yes, this affects us, so it matters. That's why Kelly is so focused on it. It affects our teams, then that affects our business, but it affects doctors. I have a best friend, my husband and I have a best friend, and he's a fantastic surgeon here. And one of the things that he and I were talking about last night is how many surgeons, how many doctors this pain impacts. These are people who have access. Dr. Dawes talked about access. These are people who have access. And yet, suicide is an option. These are people who know, and yet suicide is an option. And for universities, I realize why you're here. I'm impressed with the doctors, with the universities that are supporting this and that are moving. Because yes, your students, our students, our next generation of leaders are hurting as well. And that is an impact. And so we think about that, right? We think about that in the Denny's community. We think about that and have been thinking about that for some time. And, you know, I'll share with you kind of the strategy and how we're thinking through. But a couple of weeks ago, I ran into a strategy that was used for who, right? And as they combat mental health and what that looks like. And so for them, it was policy plus advocacy. And they have 4 key objectives. For us at Denny's, it is that. It is that as well. It is policy, it's culture, and we'll talk a little bit later about that, how that impacts us, and what that causes us to do to think differently. But you know, as I said when April called me up, my Shiro and I have been thinking about this idea around D&I and the impacts that D&I, or the impacts of me not being seen, or not feeling belonging, or inclusion, the impacts of that in an organization. Right? And that's something we think about from a Denny's perspective every day. And so for years, what we decided to do is say, hey, how can we once and for all climb this mountain? And what does that look like? So we got some experts in the room. Several of them are right here. We got some thought leaders and experts in the room and realized the day of those 1-hour sessions or the 1-day sessions, the day of the just 1-day panels, that's gone. Today, it is about a movement. Today, this moment in time, for us at Denny's last year, what we started is a 3-year journey. And we committed to this not at a time when it was easy. If you look back at last year, I think you'll remember this, right, Robert? Last year, you were looking at purchasing a new organization. That wasn't easy, yet they said yes to 3-year movement. And what we believe that did, that one yes, to say we're gonna go at this a little bit differently, what we believe that will do is to create sustainable change. Now that's our dream, that's our vision. We're not there yet, we're not there yet. And then along comes a new CEO. We have this vision, right? We know we're headed there. And where focus was on belonging and making sure people feel seen. And along comes Kelly Valade. And she said, you know, that's great, but where does wellness fit into this? And can you really create a sustainable organization that is powered by their people if they're not well? Now, that's an interesting question from an HR perspective, right? Because we offer benefits, we offer access. At Denny's, people have access. In fact, our servers today, and this change was done during the pandemic, our servers today can call EAP. They have access to call someone. But ask me if they do. Right? Ask me if they do. And that's tough. So the movement, as I said, is not done. But in asking that question, right, and talking to several consultants, talking to people, what we realized is belonging can't happen unless you're well. Life can't happen unless you're well, unless you're okay to move forward. So let's talk a little bit about our approach and our thinking. So we realized that organizations, we were doing this as well, we were really focused on health, right? Mental health. And yes, that's good. You've got to go to the doctor when you need it. You have to have that access. You have to know where to go, right? But what if the mind shift happened, and instead of just focusing on mental health, we focused on mental fitness? We introduced new ideas and new thoughts of thinking so that when the time comes, when my vulnerabilities as a mom, as a person, as a wife, as a daughter, are taken because something happens, when that's shaken and I need help, how do I go? Where do I go? What do I do? Am I mentally fit? Am I prepared to do that? I know my friends that run. Why do you run? Why do you watch your sodium? Because you want to make sure you're fit. Well, what do we do to make sure we're mentally fit? And so for us, we decided that we're going to go in. We're going to go into this. And in June, our organization is going to introduce a new way of thinking. And in fact, what you see up here is our overall strategy and how we're going about our next 3 years. We started last year. We navigated through what we call rules to live by. I shared already that for us, policy is important. You have to have policy. It's about policy and culture, right? So rules to live by for us just say, hey, this is how we're going to treat people. It's okay for you to take your time that you need. You need 5 minutes? You're good. It's okay. You treat our guests this way, we treat each other this way, and there's no question. That's just how we go. And so we make sure we do that. Next, we decided to create an experience, right, to help people uncover new realities, new thinking that they may not be introduced to, right? Because everything that they were talking about today, this is stuff that kids don't know about unless it's seen, unless it's taught. Do university students know automatically that it's okay for me to take 5 minutes? No, they don't. So how do we teach that? And we realized at Denny's, our teams may not know that it's okay for you to sleep, that it's okay for you to put your hand up. So we introduced 30-day experience of navigating forward, of compassion, of understanding empathy, of pausing to see somebody else and hear their story. 30 days. And when I asked, I remember when we first talked about this, April and I said, April, what is our CFO at the time going to say? What is Mark, what is John, who was their CEO at the time, going to say? What is Robert going to say? And everyone I asked say, oh, that's great. Let's do it. Let's do it. And so this year, we're going at it again. 30-day experiences of opening our minds, opening our hearts, and understanding empathy, understanding items. And today, it's not just about belonging. Today, what they're going to see is they're going to see an intense focus for them to understand resiliency and what feeds resiliency for them. We're going to talk about how team members thrive. We're going to talk about the experiences of thriving and what that looks like. That's different than just engagement. No, we want you to thrive. Not just at work, but at home. Because can you really split it? Can you really say I thrive at home and not at work, or I thrive at work and not at home? No, we can't do that. Right? We realize that's about humanity, right? So our very being walks into work, walks at home, right? Has conversations with our other halves. And then we're going to end this 4-week experience talking about humanity. So we're excited about it. This kicks off in June. You'll hear more about it. And, you know, April was asking me just a second ago, she said, you know what, Fasika, do we invite other people? What do we do? How do we do this? And yeah, we are looking forward to talking to other companies, to connecting and continuing this type of forum and conversation with other universities. So we're excited about our approach. Again, this is just 1 year in, right? We're gonna see what happens after this. We know this to be true. We know through this next 30 days, we will learn. Through this next 30 days on our way to climb this mountain that we're all trying to climb, every country, every organization, you heard from doctors up here, you heard from CEOs up here, right? Everyone's trying to climb this mountain and no one has. So we don't believe our thoughts are perfect. We know they're far from, but we're excited to share our journey and what that is. So I told you earlier that when April introduced me, she's my shiro. I would love to share a little bit, as April is gonna come back out, I would love to share a little bit about why. When you think about the day today, April has been instrumental. And April, are you coming up? She's coming up, all right. April has been instrumental in having conversations and leading conversations in our organization. Not only about making sure people like me are seen, or making sure people like my colleagues are seen, or the teams that work with us, but also making sure our guests, also making sure underrepresented kids, universities are seen. And this has been happening for how long have you been with Denny's?
About 29 years.
About 29 years. So I see a superhero amongst us, and I know every time we see someone, right? Every time we connect with someone that makes a change, whether it's about belonging or whether it's about mental health, I would call them superhero. So thank you for putting this all together.
Oh, me? You're talking
Yes,
about me?
yes,
Okay.
yes. Thank you, guys. We look forward to sharing our path and what we'll be doing next.
Thank you, Fasika. We're all superheroes. I'm thinking, me? Talk about me? Okay, so we had a wonderful day, and I don't know about you, but I've learned so much at this event. For those of you who work with me at Denny's, you know I'm always smiling, so I just knew this was going to be a wonderful day, right? So I hope you all are leaving here feeling excited and energized. In addition to the important dialogue we had today, we're here to encourage you to apply to Denny's Hungry for Education Scholarship Program. This is our 12th year, and since the program's inception, we contribute more than $2 million in combined scholarships to elementary, to high school, and college students across the country. Every September, Denny's identifies strategic partners to award scholarships to students that submit essays about how Denny's can help bring communities together. Each year, one student is selected by Denny's to have their idea put into action in their very own community. Actually, there was a student who submitted their essay that talked about Denny's making sure that they're involved in the community and actually coming to a college campus like today. So we're also recognizing this one student and working to combat hunger in their community. So I've been so impressed with our winning students who have developed many outstanding ideas throughout the years. And in just a few weeks, we'll be holding a special virtual celebration recognizing these wonderful scholars for their successes. And who knows, this year's scholarship recipient could be in this very room or even watching online right now. So today we are presenting a Hungry for Education check to USC Upstate to be used for scholarships for students majoring in health and science. I'd like to invite Denny's CEO Kelly Valade to return to the stage to present this check to Chancellor Dr. Denny Harris. Kelly?
There he is. So it is my honor to be able to present you with this check. So I have to, we called a little bit of an audible backstage. I got to stand over here. That says $3,000. We are so inspired by what happened today, your support, your hosting us today. That's $10,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you. If I can say, we really, really appreciate this. But even beyond this check that's going to support our students, we appreciate all the wonderful interns that we have at the Denny's Corporation as well. So thank you very much.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. They're fantastic. We have had some fantastic interns. So thank you, April. So we do have superheroes among us, do we not? So how about this event and all of the superheroes that helped to put this together? So can we give a round of applause for all of the team members from Denny's, and there are lots of them here today on a Saturday, working to help us make this important work bigger, better, bolder, like Fasika. How awesome is she? Fasika should come out. So it takes a village, and I hope you can see, we're not just advocates. We are disciples. We are justice warriors in this, and we're all aligned. We're all together. And here's the other thing that I hope is really clear. There was a question, how do we get others to do this? I hope others do it. The business case is clear. So my job as a CEO of a public company is to create shareholder value, to increase shareholder value, improve shareholder value. If we haven't shown that that's what this does, and then how much it can be a detriment if you don't focus on this, then we didn't do our job today, and I hope that we did. So I want to thank everybody one more time. I also want to thank all of the attendees, both here. It's been wonderful having you here in person, and those that attended virtually. It's been awesome to know that you were all here. I also want to thank our keynote speaker, Dr. Dawes. Can he come out as well so we can thank him? Your stories, your insight, your passion for this is clear, and I couldn't have thought of anyone better to do this. I'm so glad to make your acquaintance, and we're going to be fast friends. We are. We're attached. We're attached now. We're bonded forever. So please accept that. I want to ask all of the panelists that were here with us today that shared so much of their wisdom and insights and put up with Roland Martin. Is he still here? It stayed on their toes with Roland Martin. So come on out. Here they are, again, more superheroes in our presence. We cannot thank you enough for participating in this truly unique event. So I believe today we took an important step in helping to shape the conversation around mental health and wellness. I'm hoping today we've helped to make a difference in your lives as well. I'm leaving here, I know, feeling more informed, more energized, and more inspired than ever about this topic, and I hope you feel the same. Thank you again for being a part of today's inaugural summit. There will be more to come, and actually, we'd love to see you in Nashville. October 10th is World Mental Health Day. October 10th at the Meharry Medical College. We will be there in Nashville doing another summit, building on this great work, and hopefully sharing some accomplishments, right? Making a difference. So thank you again. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone.